Florida for some time now.
Oh, right. I was going one.
Back there, I'm going back Monday.
Wednesday
Yeah,
here?
by court.
Which one? Oh, and down in Miami. I don't know Florida, that one.
Yeah.
Definitely a Jewish place.
Lots of good people.
You have a place there? You have a program right now?
No.
You're okay.
I'm still here. I mean, I still have a house there. Come back and forth. My son's in Yeshiva now, so. Doage.
Malaysia?
Take a special Yeshiva.
Yeah. Rubashkin.
Where is she? Where is she? She have your phone?
I gotta run.
Where we going? Go fast.
Sit down. Like a bracha, you don't have to learning. If she give you open your mind, your heart.
Amen.
Yeah. Okay, you're tiny until enjoy it. I'll tell you a story about that. If you listen, if you hang around, I'll tell you a story. Some water to drink and then so we're still leaving.
Product.
That's it.
No, he made this is Flameless power plant. He made this product himself while he was in the ICU.
You're kidding.
He developed this product. And he sells it
How old is he?
17. So he wanted him to be able to have
I'll bring it a little bit. Come on. Start a song, a licken. Okay, so you want me to make it?
this kind of message to Schleimer.
Schleimer?
Person say something about Schleimer's power plant.
Can I eat it?
Yeah, man.
Like a bracha, no?
Like a bracha, yeah.
Oh. I mean, Zayn is how you imagine, right? Schleimer, they should give you all the power you need to overcome all your nesienis. And you should be gesund and stark. And strengthy betochen and we learned together. If I remember correctly, I was told this now, and all the learning and all the supposed you have chesed chinam. They should give you the bracha you need to be gesund and get out and weiter learn and serve the Eibishter with simcha. And invite me to the Yeshuda Seidah. Baruch Atam Echad B'nei Mimzis.
How's Schleimer's power plant?
It's very good.
Say something about Schleimer's power plant.
The Baruch says power bikes of Mazenas, the delicious Mazenas sweet, and nourishing, encouraging. If everybody should eat it, you can take it to learn and do it and serve the Eibishter with simcha. Baruch Atam Echad B'nei Mimzis.
Where you put it?
L'chaim is l'chaim.
Yeah.
Where did Rav go?
Go back to the shore. As a stadium. I'll come back.
Where's that?
I'll come back. He's on the Sorotsky.
Rubashkin.
Sorotsky.
What's it does?
Recorder.
Okay, Chaim, everybody, L'chaim. Somebody came over to me, one of the Bacham Yeshiva came over, they wanted a bracha to have a chaychik, a tiny learning. You hear this? That's the best request you hear so far, right? I wanted to share with you a story. In this place called prison, I had a very interesting experience over there with this guy, and we're bringing now, and the purpose is to get a chayis and learning and a chayshik and learning and doing mitzvahs, and to fulfill our kavanah what Eibusha creates us for, and being all the brachas we need, right? So anyway, so this is a matzav over there in a place called prison. It's a very it's a big hell of a hester. It's a place it's a lifeless place, a place of cold, there's no life, no varmkeit, everybody walks around. And obviously, not with everybody. I'm not there with anybody that's very, very few Yidden, and maybe one or two they can learn with. And the kids, I used one of the chesodim I did was I used to Baruch Shema, I learned myself a lot. Learned Shir and Gemara, and Mishnayos, Chassidus. I was learning a lot. Obviously, I was learning a lot Chivas Alvavis, Shar B'tochad every single day. And it gave me a lot of kech, and so I used to share a lot of these divrei Torah with my family and friends. I used to spend a lot of time in they had that room over there with for 120 people. That had a lot of computers because it's 6 computers for 120 people. A very religious place. There's no internet. Only type. No cut and paste. Yeah. The kids said telephone you couldn't use because the telephone. They give you only, imagine this, 300 minutes a month. You don't have to be a big genius to figure out. 300 minutes a month, if you're adding in 300 minutes divided by 30 is how much? 10. 10 if it's 31 days, it's 9 minutes a day. People stood by the phones with a watch. So every minute was so important. You see how important every minute is? Every minute is say that I upon him. So I on this computers for these emails, they let you type as much as you want for an hour, and then they kick you off. The show shuts down, and they go back. If there's a line, you go to the back of the line. You got to wait 15 minutes. For an hour, whatever, to get back on. The kids over there was less limitations of how much you could use. I used to learn, and I was locked in the cell for half a day. So you learned a lot during the half a day, and then a few hours I used to sit and type and keep connection with my family, my friends. And this is the way I want to share with you a little bit that I was able to pick myself up above all the darkness, all the limitations of what was around me, by focusing on my neshama learning, I can pick myself up higher. So the kids are talking about getting an enjoyment, understanding you can have an enjoyment of learning and doing mitzvahs. This is a story. So there was a guy there. There was in the whole prison there was like I would say 30 or 40 people that associated themselves with as Muslims, and as people know, Muslims are not usually very friendly. And the leader of the Muslims was a big tall guy from Florida, African American. But Baruch Hashem, he did his thing religiously, but Baruch Hashem, he never was violent. And we speak from time to time together. So what happens like this, over there, when they first brought me there, they had over there a bunch of, they sold you a radio. Before they allowed MP3 players, people take for granted MP3 players. But they didn't have MP3, they had a radio, and the radio you used to watch these screens, you used the radio also, because that was the audio was coming through the FM stations. I never bought a radio because I didn't have to listen. I would never listen to the news and music, so I didn't need it. Like a problem, the MP3 players comes out. Everybody's very excited. All the goyim over there, they're excited. They can buy their own songs. It's a chiton that na ganze kasha is a monster. Everybody's waiting. Half of those are counting sphere down, counting down. They're going to buy the MP3 players and they're going to buy the songs and so titzach. The only guy who's not buying it is me. I wasn't buying it, and the only one who knew that I wasn't buying it was the guy I was sleeping with, the Sally. And we talked about it. I told him I don't want to buy it. I don't need it. The kid said, so this leader from the Muslims found out that the Jewish rabbi is not buying an MP3 player. So it intrigued him. If he can sign, how could it be that everybody's so verkocht sich viel on the MP3 player and you get your own music and your own songs and this song and that? Wie kommt das, he doesn't need it? So I didn't know about it. He comes talking about one day I'm sitting in this little room and there's a few other guys sitting, like 6, 7, 8 guys. And he comes in and he says, hey Rabbi, I heard you, I got to ask you a question. So what do you want? He tells me, I heard you're not buying an MP3 player. Is it true? So I never really wanted to get into a conversation with him about religion because you never know where it's going to go. It can get kind of testy. I remember the first guy I met in prison, he wanted to speak to me about the Bible. It was a judge dafke. The first place he told me in the jail. So he told him, I'm not speaking religion with you. He says, why not? Because I told him, because you're going to tell me about you know who. I'm going to tell you what I think about him, and you're going to punch me. So I don't want to fight with you. I never want to talk to you guys about their religion. But he comes, he asks me, you're buying one? So I said, yeah, no. Why not? So I told him, what do I tell him? I told him, I said I want to keep it as one-liner as possible without getting a big conversation. I told him because they have my body in prison, but I don't want to give them my soul. That sounds pretty good, no? Come on, that's pretty good. I figured for Arab Muslim, it was pretty cool. So, and gegangen gendigt. So he liked it. Dafke says, what do you mean? So they started a whole discussion, and there's a little fabringen started in this little room. Mine is the mashke. There wasn't a mashke there, and so I started explaining what the general point was like this. That obviously they took me through me. We're all here in this. We're all locked in this place. Our body, but our souls are not. My soul is not in prison. I have a soul, a Jewish soul. I have I have belief. I believe in God. I love Hashem. I have awe, fear for Hashem, and a lot of things. When you buy everything, when you listening to these songs, what do you think? What do you think you're listening to? You're not just listening to music. You're actually. I'm saying to this guy. Yeah, but I let him have it the way it is. But there's a lot of words go along with it, and whoever was singing these words are relaying a message of what they're afraid of, what they like, or what they don't like, what they're aspiring to be. All these things, I said, none of those things is who I want to be. So if I'm going to listen to all that, it's going to affect my soul, who I am. I don't want to give my soul. I want to be above it all. I told him, and he got. It was a pretty good speech, obviously, because he tells me, "Wow, that's good, really good stuff." Okay, he makes an announcement. I'm not also buying MP3 player. I told him, this is not Sunday. There's no priest over here to make a, what do they call it? What do they call it? Whatever. I got confessions over here. Do you buy, don't buy? You ask me a question, I give you an answer. So anyways, the time goes by, and a few weeks later, it wasn't much long later, 3-4 weeks later, I'm standing over there. I remember I was on the On the 4th level, you can see across. So I look across. He's sitting over there on his chair watching TV with MP3 player. And so I wanted to go with him and tell him, Mister, you know, you made a neder berabim, you know, understand? It's not so poshet. You made, where's that Torah Nedarim over here, you know? Right? You made an announcement, I'm buying it. He's sitting over here, and a koift. A chutzpah. I didn't do it for 2 reasons, obviously, right? What's the first reason? I didn't want to beat me up. That's the first reason, right? He was bigger than me. But the real reason, I remember watching the scene, and it was very easy for me to feel like smarter than him, better than him, right? But it hit me, there's a big difference between me and him. What's the difference? I'm a Yid, right? And he is a goy. A Yid has a neshama. What makes us all Yid? All Bnei Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. And because we're Bnei Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, we are endowed with a neshama which is a part of Hashem. We have a neshama. The Yiddish neshama, the pintel Yid that we all have, is equal by all of us. We have a neshama. Some Yidden have a helik neshama and are more refined. But that doesn't make a difference which level we're on. The etzem, the essence of who we are Yidden, right? So B'meila, I was thinking to myself, how could this guy not for 3 weeks, 4 weeks he couldn't hold out and he had to buy MP3 player? Not because I'm better. But what's the point? He doesn't. Every person needs to have a tainug. You have to have a geschmack. You have to have a geschmack in something. That's the drive of everything. You like something that makes you what you want it. You want it, you figure out how to get it. Your whole thing starts up with what are you living with? Where you're deriving your pleasure from? Your pleasure is the drive. Tainug is the highest koyach we have. Shabbos is tainug. Why for Shabbos we feel on the Shama. That's what Shabbos is. So this guy doesn't have it. His own tainug is what? His tainug is eating nefesh habamis. He has a behemoth, so he's eating. It's some music. He couldn't help himself. He can't. How long can you hold out with only pure raw power, holding power? You can't hold out. You have to develop. You have to have a tainug. You have to have enjoyment in something. I'm a yid. I have a neshama. I can develop. I can bring out a tainug in learning. I can bring a tainug in davening. I can bring a tainug in doing the teva. The mela. Even though I can be missing out on whatever tainugim they want to see in the music or what they're watching, if there is a tainug, there is also questionable. But whatever is there, he couldn't hold out, not because he doesn't have the koyach to do it. That's not who he is. But that's the most important thing, because talk about having tainug and learning. First thing you have to know who you are. We're Yidden. We have a neshama. We all talk about Har Sinai. Every Yid has the chelik in Torah. When you learn Torah, you're connecting to what's Torah. Torah is Chachmas Hashem. When you learn Torah, you're actually internalizing the words of Eibishter with yourself. That's the biggest time you can have. Even if consciously you don't know it, but when you say a bracha, right? You make a bracha, and then you say, open up a sefer Chumash, or sefer Mishnayos, whichever level you're on, and you learn Torah, what you're doing is you're connecting your very mind, your very self with Eibishter, and that's you're connected to the source of life and pleasure. So you inject it with a tiny that you can't get anywhere else. You can't get any Davar Gashmi. I want to sing a song. I'll tell you another story about that with a guy called Ghost. These are all true stories, but all these stories that happened are all stories that I was able to connect with what I'm learning. And the Nakuda is, once we know who we are, once we know that we're Yidden, and we have a neshama, and we have a purpose in life, and we can connect ourselves to the Eibush that was the Makir, the source of all tainugim, then suddenly, and we do it. We have to do Ma'aser B'Peil, and suddenly we pick ourselves up above all the. Why can always be b'simcha? If we understood without any question that when we learn, we're mamshich hashpos, great hashpos, shefa rav b'chol elamis. When you do a mitzvah, it's not just doing a mitzvah and who cares. The Eibush cares. When you do a mitzvah, the Eibush is happy with you. And the Eibush is happy, he sends down a lot of brachas. The people sometimes use nivish al shaker. They say, well, what do I care? What does it make? Does it really make a difference if I do a mitzvah? Does it really make a difference if I don't do it? It does make a difference. It's like the Mishnah tells us, Reb Zcharia was, whatever, a negative thing, but upon him, when you start with nivish humility, that's not true. When you don't realize the power we have, that when you do a mitzvah, Pasha makes a difference. And the Eibishter, it says the Eibishter kisses and the Eibishter loves every time we say Dvar Torah, every time we say you do a mitzvah, the Eibishter hugs us. So when we do that, that's Abu Simcha. When you know that you're doing a mitzvah, you connect with the Eibishter, Tzafsa V'chibur, then suddenly you're excited about it. You want to do a mitzvah. It's not that you're in a place called prison. You can think, what am I? Who cares? Who sees? I'm doing a mitzvah. I mean, all that's all comes from the Yetzer Hara. That's all comes from the Yetzer Hara. It all comes from the negative side, the side of lies. The truth is that the Eibishter does care about you doing a mitzvah. And the truth is when you do a mitzvah, you have mamash. I remember times that it got overwhelming for a moment. You open the Gemara, you started learning, right? And with them all, you felt yourself picked up. Who picked you up? Like I told the guy, my body was in prison, but not the soul, not the neshama. That's Nekuda. And that's why you have to learn. When you learn Torah, you're able to understand the world for what it is, and you're able to act properly with Hasimcha. Let's sing a song and then continue, yeah? Which thing should we sing? L'chaim, l'chaim. Give it.
Sama lecha
Nafi. Come on, Besari, Be'eretz. L'chaim. Sit down. This weekend like that. That's when I find the shidduch. I'm still in position. I can't talk to him, but
But Stip was here also. I just want to.
who? Still, I heard the name. What I'm really saying? I'm really saying that for everybody involved. They should play best them. Some background. I'm trying to place what I see. Oh, really? No,
I remember when I brought it there for the first time. To check it out. The family, must have been siblings when I was there. I was there. Yeah. He was only there for 4 years.
Okay, it's over, but Hashem.
I mean, unfortunately, okay, the Shama is here, but I feel like his body might still be there, you know? The opposite.
Now talk about it. Sit around here. Maybe some of the dank you can share with him. Okay. I'll see him afterwards. He says at 11 o'clock. There's a guy over there. Okay, Haram Aisazeh. Every Friday night, I gotta tell you, every Friday night we had a shir Shana B'Tochen. So the first years there was a very few Yidden there. 2-3 guys came. I'm trying to make a picture over here. People start learning it, and there's a few comments I got from Zafka Leida. There was a few times that some of the Yidden there were Bachman went to yeshiva, and remember one time I was learning with in Shvat B'Tochen it says Perek Zayin that in order to really understand what B'Tochen is, Mafsida B'Tochen, to have B'Tochen properly, you really have to understand what Hashem Elokim, there's no other Ein Levada, there's no other Metzias. So we learned also the Sharavishin, Sharichot. In the middle of it, I remember one of the guys over there. He was a guy, boy who learned the Flabrish in yeshiva. And then he got married, and he took a little bit of the left track over there, a bit. And I never, but when he came in, I was with Chazakim, I was doing a little bit Torah, And he picked himself up, and then we're learning Shara B'tachon one day, and he gives a zetz on the tish, Hashar Yichud, and he gives a zetz on the tish, and he says to me, why didn't, with a gevein, he sees a scream out, then the shik grew to like eight guys, and out of the 8 guys, maybe 3 or 4 were not even yet Shema Shabbos, some were into yeshiva, and then he gives a zetz on the table, and he says, why didn't they teach me this in yeshiva? Perfect. What was the problem? He says he went to college. He finished yeshiva, went to college, and in the college they teach. It's really what is it called? Philosophy. The philosophy is really a hypocrisy. They blend in stuff, and they sold him on an idea. And I guess he bought into it, and not knowingly, and it must have affected his Yiras Shamayim. And now he's learning the Shachel Vavavas. It hit him that he lied to him. Obviously, it's a lie. And he got so angry that that he mamash cried out, why didn't they teach me this in yeshiva? Had he known this before, he would have saved a lot of grief. God, in this particular yid in prison became more Yiras Shamayim and became a whole different person. So when you learn Torah, that's the good is Gaflanan. When you learn, you're not only connected with Eibush, Eibush is teaching you the truth of who you are, the truth of the world, and when every day we have Nesaynis, you're able to address the Nesayin like a Yid. So over there, I always walked around with the Yarmulke and Tzitzis. Sounds simple, but between the type of people that I was with, Yarmulke and Tzitzis I never really thought about it. That wasn't a big challenge for me. It was more normal for me. But I was in a place, in a building locked in with guys that, some of them were murderers and some of them were gang members and some were nice people. I find... And mafia guys were there, by gang to gang. To me, they were all people. I had to do my thing, they were doing their thing. And there was Mexican gang, there's maybe it's a night, I'll share a few stories. But that's always where Yamka and Tzitzis. I wasn't stuck in Sarwar, exactly, a Yarmulke, and I walked Tzitzis, and I made sure that my Tzitzis were hanging out out of my pants, and then one day I found out why. This happened maybe 2nd or 3rd year. I'm walking around, and then every week they brought in new customers. It's a there's a resort on top of a hill somewhere every week. The guys, they brought a bus, and the 3, 5, 10, 15 guys get piled out, and some of them wound up in the building I was in. There was a line, they lined up by the councilor's office to get the stuff. I passed by, and one guy makes a tzachas, makes a joke, and he says, hey, the guy has strings coming out of his pants. He's laughing for my tzitzis. So I turned around, look at him, who had the chutzpah to say it, and nobody ever chapped. This is the first time who's messing, yeah. I look at him, he's a head taller than me, a white guy, and I ask him, no, what's your problem? So he realized he how do you say it? He was messing around with it, so he says, no, I wasn't making fun of it. I actually know what the yah. He was trying to prove. I said, well, you're not making fun of it. You made an announcement. Look at the guy's string high. So he says, no, I know the yah. I really called tzitzis. So this was the button that brought. I never realized he was a Jewish man. The way he said the word tzitzis, I realized this kid was learned in yeshiva. You don't say tzitzis like that, So I look at him like now I'm puzzled. Who are you? So he says he's Jewish. This guy went every day. Everybody there has an alias. Nobody says a real name. The only had a real name was me, Rubashkin, but everybody there has a name for his. Actually, they called me Rabbi. My nickname was Rabbi. His nickname was Mr. Ghost. Ghost. He tells me he comes from Florida, and in Florida Tamatera. He went to Tamatera, but he's more on the streets than Tamatera. He was a very wilde chaya, and he wound up becoming part of gangs over there, and he became a leader of some Mexican gang. This Neshama's journey in life, and they must have done something really violent because he winds up being in a high security prison, a level higher than the security than I was in, for 10 years, 11 years already. So imagine what that did to his brain. Because the prisoners, I think, it really affects a person. And now, because he's going out in a year, they brought him down from high down to medium, where I was in. But they still want us to meet. Now I found out he's Jewish. So what do I think I'm going to do? I'm going to try to get him Jewish. So I start I start, you can't just walk over to the guy's tamas. These are tough guys over there. It's a bislach. I did him a few favors, and then one day I asked me, you want to put on film? He starts to put on film, and learn with him a little bit. He started warming up. Everybody's in the shama. This guy, this is like a story from the shama, because this tough guy starts warming up to bislach, and I would say maybe 70-80% of the time, I would ask him to put on film. He would say, okay, we'll put on film. But sometimes, he has it also, obviously. I'd come over to him and say, hey, Mr. Ghost, you want to put on film today? He's sitting in a cell over there, staying there alone. What is he doing? He's not waiting for any meetings. What is he doing, yeah? He says, Rabbi, I'm busy today. I can't do it. He's very busy today. Well, he's busy. Where you go, right? Anyways, this goes by a few months, and then one day I'm learning over there, shtickle, Gemara, and he walks in, and he can see, this is in the morning, at 9, 10 o'clock, he can see he's very agitated. I give a look at him, like he saw a ghost, He walks in, against the doodle, a very agitated look. He says, and he tells me, Rabbi, you have a minute? I said, of course, what do you want to talk about? He says, I want to put on film. You have a minute? Put on film with me. Now, this was a shock, because first of all, this guy was Mr. Tuffy all the way around. I mean, his toughness never went away. I mean, he didn't come a lemela. He showed me one day he made a inside pocket in his pants where you can hide 2 knives. He made himself 2 knives in the little time that he was there. He really figured out to make. He's a real chaverman guy, type of guy. But here he looked against him doodle, unnatural to what he presented himself like. So I asked him, what's going on? So he says, what was the chiddush? The chiddush is pashat, because I always have to chap him to ask him to do a mitzvah, and here he's coming to me. So I asked him, what's going on? What do you look to? What's going on? I said, Rabbi, I can't sleep at night. I said, what's bothering you? I couldn't imagine who was bothering him. So he says, you don't understand. What happened is that last week, they called me into the office, and they told me a date that he's being freed. Let's say 3-4 weeks they're going to release him, right? And he says, and since then I'm very nervous. I can't sleep at night. I fall asleep, and in 5 minutes I wake up. He's under stress. I say, you out of your mind? If they told me I'm leaving in 3 weeks, I'll make a big kiddush. I try to he says, don't laugh. And I've seen this, I heard about this a few times by Goyim. I never saw this by Yid. He said, don't laugh. He says, now I'm afraid when I get out of the who I know. I can't get a job. I know only the bad guys. He doesn't become a bad guy again. And so he's very under stress. What's going to be when he gets out? So what did he do to get himself calm? And this is the kud of the whole story. Is this amazing thing? On his own, he wanted to become menuchas hanefesh. He wanted to become calm. He wanted to get his bearings back. What did he get to do a mitzvah? He got to put on film. That's a very, very, very telling story of what a Yid really is. I mean, this is a guy that didn't have a real Jewish education, but he is a guy, somebody who has the last few months has tasted, has started learning a little bit, did mitzvahs. He started having a little shaykhis yiddishkeit. He's davened. He started coming Friday night and davening a little bit. We got him. Suddenly, his neshama started being fed with Torah mitzvahs, and suddenly, when he got into a state of feeling as under stress, he knew how the thing works. Over there, they have 6, 7, 8 psychiatrists. They have more psychiatrists there than they have medical doctors, because prison is very difficult on a person, his mind. And then you come to them, you tell them, I can't sleep at night, I'm under stress. They'll give you medication. Xanax, Mantex, They give this medication, and this is, he knew that's what you do. And people do it for false reasons. They want to get the medication. So, right? He didn't do that. He came. He felt under stress. He came. It's an amazing thing. So what's the word? What's the word? Right? What's the word? Then your name knew. What difference does the whole story make? So I put on film with him. We sat down. We talked to him. I don't even remember his real name. He asked me what your real name is. I didn't write it down. I didn't chapsach that I would need it. But I told him to give him some addresses to talk to Rabbi Lipsker from Aleph. He's in Florida, so Aleph is an organization that helps prisoners inside and outside. a very tremendous organization, and I try to tell them, go to yeshiva. So if you can't get a job, don't go to the street. Use your time to go to yeshiva. And maybe he did it. I don't know. I'm always hoping. I see the story. I'm always hoping somebody say, "Hey, that's me." You know, like, I don't know. Anybody here, Mr. Ghost? I don't know. Okay, nicht. He's not in Lakewood there. Maybe so. But what's the word? What does it say? Here's a good marshal. The marshal is like this. And a baby is born. When a baby is born, I was by Fabringen one Shabbat. I was a bacher myself, and it was a Pagisha that year. Every year they had the college students come, and one of the sikhs he would give over like to the Valley Tshuva, the people that were trying to get back to Yiddishkeit. And here's a marshal. I heard it. No, this was for me. I use this. A baby when he gets born, he doesn't know what food is, right? When it's hungry, what does baby do? Doesn't point to a bottle. What does it do? Cries, right? Why does the baby cry? It's not as if it knows I'm going to cry and the mother's going to give me food, right? So that doesn't work like that. When it gets older, it knows he wants a toy, and just get a toy, he cries. The baby cries because he knows if I cry, I get the toy, right? But food, it's not like she cries because the baby knows that by crying he gets food. What's crying to do with food? It's not that the baby doesn't know. The baby cries because it's uncomfortable. The baby cries because it has a need. It feels uncomfortable. It has a pain in the stomach. And when somebody's in pain and discomfort, when it hurts, you cry. That's what's happening. The baby cries. So when the mother knows that when the baby's crying, that means that the baby hasn't eaten, has to eat. And if you give it food, the pain will go away, and the baby will stop crying, and that's what happens. So this process repeats itself, and the younger light in here can remember that, right? 3, 4, 5 times a day the baby does this, and after a few months, the baby figures out that this type of pain, this type of discomfort, is eased by food, and then it starts pointing to a bottle. Then it knows exactly what it wants. It gets hungry, it starts pointing to an apple, to a bottle. That's what it wants. It knows exactly what it wants. It can take away the pain. So take the same analogy, but physically it works spiritually too. We have a neshama. The same way the person's body needs food and it suddenly feels uncomfortable, the neshama needs to be connected to Hashem. Our Yiddish neshama needs food, which is Torah, and needs clothes, which is mitzvahs. The Chazal call Torah food, and the clothes that protects it from the elements and allows it to be able to be in an environment where it's at is clothes. So Torah mitzvahs, food, that's Torah is called lechem. Torah is called mayim, Torah is called shemen, yayin, food. Because same way you internalize food. You internalize, when you learn something, you understand it, you internalize it, it becomes part of you. When you do a mitzvah, it's more ma'isa mitzvah, but Torah becomes part of you. So when you learn, when a neshama and a Yid gets born into and learns and knows, and the parents teach the boy, the Jewish child, that you should know you're a Yid, and you're a Yid, you have a higher purpose in life. You're created to learn Torah, and by learning Torah, you bring down barachas onto yourself and into the world. This is for real. This is not a story. You know, talking about for real. You ever hear the story about it's for real? You ever hear the story? As a side note, this is actually a funny story. There was a wise guy, not a wise guy, a wise man. He asked a question. He said, "How come you say Shema Yisrael Hashem Hashem Echad, right? Shema, v'hafta, v'hoya, v'yemer. So you talk about the I believe in the Eibishter and then Torah mitzvahs and tzitzis mitzrayim, and they say emes v'yatzev v'nochav v'kayim v'yoshev v'nama v'hov v'chov v'nachem v'noim v'adler. 15 expressions that it's true and it's beloved. What do you 15 times? What's wrong with emes? Twice v'yatzev. What do you have to keep on repeating? It's for real. It's for real. It's this way for real. That way for real. So he gave a geschmack of Maisa that brings this out very nicely. But the Torah is for real. There was a wealthy person in this little town somewhere in Russia, a very real wealthy guy. And the problem with this wealthy guy, as some wealthy guys are, is that he was a very, very big miser. I say a miser in English, a cheapskate. He couldn't spend $1 for somebody else. It just shoot him. I can't pay it. The Eibster helps. His daughter is getting married. The daughter's getting married, let's make a wedding. He makes a cheshbon. He has to invite this guy, he has to invite that guy, he has to invite all these guys. Boy, oh boy, he's been busy feeding all these people. He can't get himself to spend all that money. So he devises the following plan. He calls in the secretary and tells him, listen to the plan. I am going to put up a big invitation for everybody in the 5-city area. Lakewood, you're putting up a sign in Jackson County in Lakewood. Everybody should come into this inn. We're inviting a Gvir, I'll have a come. And in front, you make sure that in front of this hall is parked a few wagons, a few truckloads of food, of wine, of fish, all good stuff. Order it from Amazon.com, right? Or Zalessen. And then everybody come to the hotel. Everybody come and they'll sleep overnight. Yeah. So then the morning, overnight, you take away all the wagons and return it back. Make a return policy. Return it back to the owner, and come when I'm davening in the morning. Come in and tell me that you wouldn't believe it. The wagons got stolen at night. They're stolen. So I'll start crying. It's stolen. Everybody will realize why the chas has to be canceled. I'll make a little kiddush over there. 10 people will wash, a little herring, and that's it. That was his plan. Okay. The able to help. The plan goes according to the schedule. Everybody comes to the inn. The guy puts up all the wagons of food. Wow, the Gevir made such a beautiful chasana. They get up in the morning, and but able to help during the night. The real gang of them came. They really stole the wagons. It wasn't a show. See, the secretary walks out in the morning. The wagons are gone. He runs into the Gevir and tells him, "Hey, Mister, you won't believe loud. You won't believe this. The wagons are stolen." So he makes with his eyes. Oh, yeah, so bad. I feel so terrible. He says, no, you don't understand. They're really stolen. I know you. I know you. He thinks he's acting, and he's trying to tell him it's true. I'm not making it up. It's really gone. So after 15 times, the Gvir chapt that it's for real. He started crying for real. The whole food got stolen. He spent all that money. So the Havdil, this is a marshal. He says over here, you come to a person, you tell him, tell us for real. Macht me the for sure. I'm only it's for real. No, it's really for real. I'm not just telling you it's for real. This is Emes v'Yatzev v'Nochem v'Kayim v'Yosha. We're talking about Torah brings down all the brachas. This is for real. It's not something that we're just a part of the what you speak about in the shul. You know, it's not the way you say the Dragef Hadrasha. Amunah brings down, you connect with the Eibishter. B'tochen means you bring down the brachas. This is for real. And if you didn't get it, we take it v'yatziv. You didn't get it, v'nochem, v'kayim. So hopefully after the 15th time, you got it. Oh, it's for real, so you will live with it. That's the point. So getting back over here to Mr. Ghost over here, the food, but the neshama. The Eden has a neshama. The Eden knows that when the Eid's neshama feels the chayas of a mitzvah. Now the Eitzahara, the Ruch Shtus, we'll talk about this in a minute. There's the Ruch Shtus. Ein Adam, Eva Veda, Adam, Kind, Ruch Shtus. The Maimon gets Shvat, he's Shvat verbringen. So he picks about, they have the Ruch Shtus, that the Eitzahara tries to come and tries to fadrei the Eid cup and fool him that, you can still be a Yid, you still can be connected to the Eibush, even though you don't do the mitzvah. And what does the Yid have to do? He has to overcome the Ruch Shtus. Right? That's the whole avodah. The avodah is the Eibush wants us to make this, go through this Elam Hazer, go through there's a place called prison, there's also a place called freedom. We think we're free, but the Yitzhak tries to tie us up into thinking the world is for real when it's not. The Yitzhak tries to convince us that we should have a geschmack dafke in things that are not neshamadik. And in Mela, so what do we have to do? We have to remember we have a neshama. And if you want to be happy, you want to have a simcha chayim, you want to have a nefesh, address your neshama, do a mitzvah. This is mamish what I saw with this ghost guy. This guy was under terrible pressure. He knew he can go to the doctor and get some Xanax. I said Xanax, huh? Xanax. He can get Xanax, yeah? He can get it, but that's not what he came for. He came, obviously, all these months that he was davening and learning and doing mitzvahs, he felt a certain simcha, a certain tranquility, that now that he was past the drug thing, he was past the external push from something that was not going to work. He felt something coming from in him, and he came to, Rabbi, I'm going to put on tefillin now. The first time he ever came to me, I always had to ask him, and even then, sometimes, I'd like to tell another story, two Eden from Russia. There's a few stories, I guess, that really stand out, even though I saw it more than a few times. But this is another story. Mamish, I saw it stand out very, very boldly. There was two Eden from Russia. One guy was Dafka. Somebody was in the building. Guy was together, and the other guy was in a different building. The guy in the building was called Yitzchok. The other guy's name was Ephraim. That he had Yiddish names. The guy in the building I was in, he was a guy. Every time I asked him, he was Mr. Tuffy. If you saw him on one side of the street, you go. He's from Russia. A Russian Tuffy. And if you saw him, you'd walk to the other side. But he had a warm. He used to always greet me with mishpacha, mishpacha. He had no Yiddish word. Anytime I asked him to put on film, he put on film. Never said no. Never is a strong word. I don't remember. But that was as far as it went. He came sometimes to davening, like to dance. The other guy, I had less contact with him. And then it came Pesach. I never chapsich to. Let's do this. So Pesach, we daven mincha together. And after mincha, I said Korban Pesach and the Yiratzen over there, and it hit me. No, the Korban Pesach looks like Korban Pesach, and the whole oral yechol bay, right? Oral is not allowed to eat Korban Pesach. So we sat down to the Seder. You can imagine what a Seder looks like in a place called prison. You're about to start a Zman Cheduseinu, where? In prison. It's a little room, no windows, there's nothing about anything Gashmi is there that looks anything about Chedus. Everybody's wearing pajamas, these Purim clothes, still Purim, and around a simple table like this, put together two tables with a white tablecloth, and that's it. Baruch Hashem for that. Baruch Hashem we had matzah, we had morah, we had a lot of morah, yeah. And chareses we had karpas and salzwasser. Baruch Hashem, I'm sorry, I prepared. Most of the guys did. Some never saw a seder, never saw a real seder. I prepared myself so good stories, trying to get these chaver a little bit inspired, uplifted with the Haggadah, and I sat down to talk. I thought, and then it hits me. I see these two Yidden from Russia, and they're sitting in the left corner. This is one of these moments you don't forget, right? And it hits me. I bet you they don't have a bris milah. And why I never thought about it in the months until now, because everything has its time. Everything has its time. You talk about neshama. It says in Shabbos we get a neshama yeseda, right? What's a neshama yeseda on Shabbos? You ever wonder? So Pasha Pshat. Rashi says you can eat more cholent, right? You have neshama yeseda, you can eat more cholent, right? That's one pshat. Another pshat is for neshama yeseda is that you get more refined. You have a more affinity, you have more of a gefühl, a hergish. You have for kedusha. Your hergish for kedusha comes from neshama. The feeling you have for kedusha comes from neshama, right? Your neshama is a getleche, a godly being, and the same way your physical body likes good food, the neshama likes a mitzvah, likes Torah. So so a whole week we live in a world of gashmias. So the gashmias covers over the geschmack gefühl of kedusha. We have to bring it out. We have to daven. We have to arouse that feeling. On Shabbos, because the Eibusha gives us the neshama yeseda, it's easier for us to daven. It's easier for us to learn. It's easier for us to do because we have a stronger our receptors, our ability to receive, to feel the kedusha of Getlach, of Shabbos is there on Shabbos. That's why, and I see it, if any time you want to speak to somebody about yourself, about increasing a Torah mitzvahs, on Shabbos, you can daven better on Shabbos. That's why Shabbos shouldn't go around just for idle talk. You should use it for kedusha good things. So hit me, now it's Pesach. I'm going to talk to them about a bris on Pesach. Why? Because Pesach, now, I bet you that neshama in Shaykh is closer to this idea. So you think you got to come in the room and you got to give them a whole spiel. Right here by the Seder, we're talking about bris milah. I took my whole speech and put it on the side, and I started talking to them about the mile of bris milah. What can I think about? I told them the medrash about Moshe Rabbeinu making the Korban Pesach, and the reich of the Korban Pesach went around the whole Mitzrayim. All the Yidden smelled it and they wanted to eat from it. They said you can't eat until you make a bris milah, and they were mad themselves. Right now, to us, when we speak about Moshe Rabbeinu, we get inspired. Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest Navi, the one that gives the Torah. We talk about a Korban, we get inspired. We talk about Reich Nechech, we have a little. These guys, I could talk to them about Kabbalah, Kesser and Atzilus and Bri, Yetzirah, Asiyah. The same thing that I told them here, right? But what was I thinking? I'm not talking to the body, I'm talking to the neshama. I'm not talking to the intelligence, I'm not talking to the seichel. Because for a 50-year-old plus-year-old man, to make a decision, to make a bris milah in prison, you got to get his neshama alive. You got to talk to his yichida. You got to talk to the essence of who he is. You can't talk to him and say his seichel is not gonna get inspired by this. His seichel is out of your mind. Later, tomorrow, next day when I get out, always a push off, right? In such a place to get a bris milah, and lepeil. After Pesach, these two guys came over to me and they told me they made a decision right then. By the Seder, they made a decision they're making a bris milah. Right? Now the challenge, they want to make a bris milah. So now I started it. Ask me, okay, let's get it done. Now the Bureau of Prisons, does not allow. Male's not going to come in and do it, right? And going out, you can get out only if it's medical. So the chaplain there was Eilach Yid, Rabbi Richter, so we went over to him. We gave him some ideas how to argue for it, because they do take people out for the hospital. It was miraculous, but nothing short of a miracle. These two Yidden were approved to be taken out to Kiryas Yael. Kiryas Yael was like a 40-minute drive from where we were. And in the doctor's office, and they both made a bris milah, and each one of them saw mamash and das in their own way. From the mitzvah, and this was in this medium security prison across the street from the camp. The 5 other Yidden made a bris milah after that. So from this one, say the 7 Yidden that I know about it, but now we broke through. Now anybody in the prison that wants to have bris milah can make a bris milah. So this is what we're talking about to make a kitchen and to sing a nigun. What we're talking about? We're talking about the power of the Yiddish neshama. Talk about who we are. We have a neshama. We have a guf. We have a neshama in a guf. And the way we have to learn Torah, we have to learn mitzvahs, because by learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, we connect with Hashem Yisbarach. And we connect Hashem Yisbarach. Not only is our neshama energized, not only are we gaining a more ruchni, a more spiritual level, we're actually bringing upon ourselves brachas b'gashmius. If you want to be free b'gashmius, you have to be free b'ruchnis first. And because we know we have a neshama, and the neshama never went to Golos, right? Then we know by focusing on the neshama, then we're also able to get out of the limitations of Golos, and that's what B'tachon is all about. The Chayim, the Chayim. Yeah.
Ask them to come.
Can I ask him to come get him?
Now I want to share with you personal. We are now from bringing. We're talking about the power of Yiddish and Neshama. One of the. I'll come back. This is. First I'll tell you a story, then I'll tell you about it afterwards. People like stories better. There's a personal story I had with my youngest child. We Baruch Hashem, the children, you can know in Chinuch, and especially today, where how do you say, fire and the winds are blowing, even in places where there should be pure education for your chinuch. Here's a story, and after the story, I'd like to enhance it with a few details. But let me say first a story. The story is like this: our youngest child, our youngest child his name is Uziel, and he was 4 years old. I want to paint you a picture. He was 4 years old when they came in the first time to arrest me, and when they did that, they did it to be matched for the person. It wasn't only me. This is standard operating procedure. You come into the house, even if you're not a violent man, they put you in chains in front of the family. This is knock you down. You call it a very difficult experience that child is going through, but the child and the lady in visiting. They were the first day I was wearing this orange clothes. I put them all year round. It was a massive. But I was always Baruch Hashem Simcha. Where did the simcha we spent? What was the simcha from? The simcha wasn't I was a place called prison. The simcha was because I'm doing whatever she wants me, whatever I'm learning in such a difficult situation. They're just happy with my learning, so that's my simcha. I'm doing whatever she wants me to do, and in Shvat it says that the B'tayach, we know Shvat it says you have to know how to move, right? So what do? You have to learn Torah. Without Torah you get nowhere. Or you ask somebody who does learn. That one of the Hagdamas, one of the Hagdama prefaces that for a B'tay is to have a Tachan Leibish that is 5. Perigimul. This is 5 things. The fourth Hagdama is that the B'tayach is someone. If you want to picture a B'tayach as someone who makes it stadlus. The B'tayach does all the stadlus to do what Leibish wants, and stay away from what Leibish doesn't want. That's what B'tayach is. Why? And you can speak about it because the same way the B'tayach Hashem wants that the Eibishter should give him what he's trusting him to do for him. Here's a clear proof that B'tachon means the Eibishter will give him what we're trusting him to do for us, even if it's a matzah that's l'mayla derech hateva. So the same way, the B'tayach is mishtadl to do what the Eibishter wants because the Eibishter do what he wants. It's like a midah thing. That's what he writes over there. So obviously, if you're working on your betachon and the Eibishter, and the matzah, if you learn Shvat betachon, you learn a few things. First thing you know, the betachon is a mitzvah. The Eibishter obligates you when you're in a time of need, not to say, okay, you accept it. The Eibishter wants you to have betachon that he will help you in the out in the tzara. The Rebbeinu Yeni writes in Shani Tshuva, he writes that the Yisayda betachon comes from the pasuk in Shoftim. It says, when you go out, and you see a larger army, a more powerful army is standing against you and they're going to kill you. Obviously, according to nature, he's always used to get help. The Eibishter commands you, they see them. You're not allowed to be afraid. Why not be afraid? There's a guy standing there with big knives, more than you, and they're going to knock your head off. Why not hide this in him? Because you're commanded to have a Tachan Eibishter. Even a matzah where they're more than you, and you can't see a way in Dechateva to be held. The Eibishter wants you and expects you to have betachon. That's a mitzvah. So once you know it's a mitzvah, it's not like you decide to have betachon. The Eibishter obligates you. The Eibishter knows that which matzav you're in. Up until now, the Eibishter wants you this matzav. The Eibishter wants your avodah. The Eibishter wants you should daven with a betachon to him. He'll save you out of the problem. Okay, I get it. Fine. So obviously, I tried very hard never to say, even in a matzav, it's very easy if you're a matzav in the prison to say, I'm such a difficult matzav, maybe I should loosen up. Not to keep Teda mitzvahs the same way, the same hinder that I was on before. Right? People that go through a difficult time, sometimes there was actually a younger man there, a young guy who before he came into prison, he never ate chalabakim. He ate Chav Yisrael. And then he was going to prison, so he got with the Rav, and the Rav gave him a heter. They keep chalabakim. So what's the word? What's heter? Heter doesn't mean permission. Heter means, okay, whatever it is. The point is, the better is if you don't look for a tatum. Don't look for a tatum. You do the Eibishter once in every matzav, because the whole union of the Nesoyan is to show the Hashem that whatever matzav you are, you still want to be connected to Him. If when you understand that mitzvah as meaning tzavsa v'chiba, if you understand that mitzvah means you're connected with Hashem, then you can understand that heter goes against it. Heter also means to untie. If tzavsa means to tie, heter also means to untie. So if the heter comes from Torah, the Torah says achil b'Shabbos has to act a certain way, fine. But if you're looking for a Torah, looking for a way to make yourself easier, that's the right way. Akaponim, this little boy was 4 years old, 4 years go by, he was watching us, we always lived in the Mother B'tachon, David is going to help us, David wants us to have a B'tachon, that he'll save me, I'll come back home, even though they said 27 years, what they say doesn't mean anything, David still runs the world, he can free me in a second, and that's what we live, so we always talk with Simcha, and that's what it was. In this room, visiting room, there was an ice cream machine, and the ice cream machine, they was either not kosher or had old D on it. You know what these things for, yeah? Disaster, yeah? D for disaster. D for danger, I don't know what you say for. What I say disaster and danger, what it means is, it says that Cholovakim is with Tamer, the Meir Valev, it's not the Pashta Zach, Cholovakim, yeah, it's Metamtim. This kid is named after my my grandfather Uziel. This Uziel grew up in communist Russia. He was a young man. He was 16, 17 years old when the communist revolution happened, and most of his friends became communist and stopped keeping Torah mitzvahs. He was one of the few that stayed strong on Torah mitzvahs. Instead of Uziel, I remember very well. I stayed at his house. One of the times, many times he shared with me, conversations he had with his friends. They used to phone to him, ask him questions. They had like these debates. He was very afraid to have with them. So one time they asked him, Uziel, you tell us always when you do a mitzvah, you have a good feeling about it, and you feel it's a chayas. We do a mitzvah, we don't feel nothing, right? So he tells them, yeah. He says, I'll give you. He says to them, I'll give you a marshal. If you hold on, don't try this, but you can imagine if you hold an electric wire has electricity flowing through it, right? So then if you pick up an electric wire with if you hold an electric wire, positive and negative, what do you get? A shock. Yeah. Why? Because you feel the electricity that's in there. What happens if you put rubber gloves on and then you hold the wire? You feel nothing. So yes, what happened? The electricity is still there, but you instantly you block yourself from feeling it. He says, guys, stop eating treif, start keeping Shabbos, stop putting on film and daven. You'll see, you feel something. You don't feel nothing. You insulate yourself against kedusha. Talk about the neshama. I could feel it, but chas v'shalom, you can do things as the neshama exists in the body. We have to be careful not to do things that interfere with that reception. Upon him. This is one of the things I think D stands for disaster, right? Or for danger. The kid said, this kid understood the essence of ice cream. Everybody here likes ice cream, right? He was okay with it, that David helps. And I say David helps because every Nesoyan in itself is really to pick us up. One day, and I look back, and I shared the story on the emails, I know the dates. He was 8.5 years old at that time. The David helps, it was a warm, hot summer day. And a guy walks in, and I guess he didn't know these things for disaster. So he bought one ice cream for himself, one ice cream for his friend. And they're sitting on the other side of the visiting room and licking ice cream. This little kid sees them. He was for sure, we kept on telling him that soon Mr. Klein is going to bring Chalav Yisrael ice cream. That's what we told him. So he was sure that the two Jewish men are eating ice cream besides Chalav Yisrael. So he yanks me on my shirt sleeve and tells me, hey, Tati, they just brought Chalav Yisrael ice cream, I want ice cream. Yeah, so I was excited when he told me. It was a bureaucracy. It was taking a very long time to get some ice cream in there. I don't know why it's taking so long. I give a look and I see, no, this is Chalav Akum. So I tell him, no, you don't understand, this Chalav Akum still, we can't eat it. We can't eat it. And wait, soon Mr. Klein's going to bring ice cream. He sees, because he used to come visit somebody that he said he's bringing ice cream. But he lost it, this kid lost it. He's 8-year-old kid, he's hot. These kids are eating ice cream. He starts kvetching, the 8-year-old he starts kvetching, I'm so hot, Tati, I can't take it, I'm so hot, I need ice cream. Okay, wait a minute. No, and to emphasize that he's very hot, he starts standing up and walking around this thing back down and kvetching. Now this is a medium security prison. It's one notch lower than high. I mean, this is a place that's pretty high security, and they hate when the guy with the movement in this visiting room. The guards hate because they're afraid that if somebody's passing something they can't see. So they call me over and they tell me, listen, I'm warning you, if you're going to not get your kid calm, we're gonna stop the visit. We're gonna send him home. You have to go back. I didn't want to, but to me a visit was like air. Air, breathing air once a week. Can't come together. So I said, how about I'm gonna talk to this kid. I'm gonna address his reasonable self. I'm gonna explain to him that in an hour and a half he's gonna have ice cream. But for an hour, this is Madrash. An hour and a half, you'll have the ice cream you want. So I started telling him, listen, Ingela, now we're sitting in a place called prison. Over here you can't do what you want. You can't up and down. The guard told me he's going to throw you out. So calm down and wait an hour and a half, have a good time. We'll leave a little earlier. Mom will buy you ice cream, you get back to Muncie. Yeah, but I'm so hot, I can't take it. And he starts, we are pest. We're not a pest. I mean, where a kid can really, right? Now, sometimes they give him, well, give him chas v'sholom. You can't give it because giving him, you talk about the stamina that he had to be able to go through the years with his father in prison and stay normal and go through yeshiva and learn was only from his neshama. Where did he get it from? You think you're doing him a favor by feeding him chalav akum from fakert. You're actually hurting him because that ability that he has to be able to overcome the energy he needs from the neshama is going to get interfered by eating not the right food. So it's backwards thinking, right? And I want to tell you, this guy that got a head to eat chalav akum, you should know he wasn't. He had a miserable time there. I cannot. There's a lot of reasons why he had a miserable time, but he was that guy. He sat and learned. He couldn't pick himself up. So did the Rav really do him a favor by telling him to eat chalav akum? Maybe it would have been better. I'm not challenging anybody for anybody. And I always said that anybody in prison has a license to be meshugah. You know, like yeah. If you're in prison, you have a license. You can do any meshugah thing you want because that place can make you meshugah. You know. But I'm not judging anybody. But when you're helping somebody, you have to think if you're only addressing if you understand yourself and your child that he has two parts, he has a guf, he has a neshama. Do you really think you can help him by only addressing the body and going to the neshama? You really think that the kid could be happy if his guf is going to be happy and his neshama is really sad or is really in the dumps or being b'chayv? It's impossible. It's impossible. All these when you talk to a Yiddish Engel and Imedel, and you're only addressing your idea how to help him is only not addressing the idea of Kabbalah Soil, not addressing the idea of Bittul Tadei, not addressing either purpose, why you were created, not addressing the fact that it's a harder. If you're not going there, you don't do any favors. You're talking to him a language that's actually going to confuse him more because as you're talking to him, you're building up walls around the neshama. That's his very life. You're not helping him. You're actually entrapping who he really is in a box. So for a moment, you think, the body is happy, but a second later, a day later, it's going to catch up, and the neshama is going to cry, and the neshama cries, the person cries. Akoponim, it didn't work. This kid. So I figured, okay, he can't understand the reason. He can't rationalize why he should be chalav akum. Okay, I'm going to bribe him. I tell him, listen, okay, if you wait an hour, you calm down for an hour, I'm going to give you 2 ice creams. Mommy will give you 2 to get home with 2. He's a good businessman. 2 is not enough. So I got with three ice creams, no? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got it to 10. You know, like he wants ice cream now. You want Mashiach now. He wants ice cream now. He's not budging. And then the guard machmir the egelach. He makes it cause me over. Whatever. He tells me one more warning. If I'm throwing him out, so I go back. This is one of the moments you remember. I put my head in my head. What do I do now? I didn't want to give him the ice cream, and I didn't want to leave. And I realized a little more of these machinations that he's doing is finished. This guy's there's no mercy over there. So I chapsich. What they say is, let me talk to the neshama. Until now, I talk to the seichel. I'm talking to present. Let me talk to the neshama. I tell him, listen, Ingela, you have two bridges. You have two choices here. Choice number one you have is you can have ice cream now. And then I tell him, you have ice cream, you'll be happy, right? He looks at me and I said, but the Eibishter won't be happy. The second choice you have is that you wait an hour, and then you'll have ice cream, and then you'll be happy, and the Eibishter will also be happy. Which one do you want? I watched this little kid's face. And you know, it takes a second for him to understand what I was telling him, but when it clicked, that he waits an hour, and then he'll be happy, and David will be happy, right? For real, right? That's for real. The kid understood it, and he stopped crying, he stopped kvetching, and he himself took the whole ice cream off the table, and he started talking about something else. He switched the conversation. It was over. The whole conversation was over. He stopped bothering. And I think he was even happy with one ice cream later. He never demanded the 10 that I gave up before, right? What's the point? The point I learned that day two things. First, number one, when you talk to yourself, I talk to him like I talk to myself. What am I doing? I'm talking to the neshama. Talk like a yid. Remember who you are, what your purpose in life is. Everything you do is something you do. You do what Eibishter wants. You make the Eibishter happy. If you, but the goof wants something was ice cream now, and the ice cream is not good for the neshama. So he understood that certainly the heat that he was questioning about, it was still there. But obviously, the knowledge that what he's doing is going to make Hashem happy. Certainly, the heat didn't bother him anymore as much, and he was able to overcome it because he realized it's worth to sit in a hot room for another hour. They should be happy with him. That's number one. Number two, what 10 ice creams couldn't do. Just the knowledge that the Eibishter is going to be happy was able to do that for him, and this is not a tremendous story. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about talking to the neshama, talking to a Yiddish part of ourselves. That's what we're created for. That's what we're for. Then suddenly the whole world changes. The whole look of the world changes, right? And the second part is when you learn and you realize who we are. And I don't think this is not something he understood, but this is something we can understand. That as we grow in our understanding of Torah mitzvahs and Eibishter, we realize that because we know that we have a neshama, we have a chelik elikam mal mamish, it's really impossible for us to be happy if the Eibishter is not happy. Because it's not like there's me and there's Hashem. There's only Hashem. I have a neshama that's part of Hashem. I and Hashem are one. So how can I be happy if Hashem not happy? It's really impossible. Again, we live in a physical existence, so for a moment we can be fooled into thinking that the Eibishter is there and I'm here and I can do something, I can be happy for a moment and the Eibishter will understand. It's impossible. If we understand who we are, this is what it means to daven. You talk about davening. You talk about focusing on the moment, thinking about who I am and what the Eibishter wants from me. And this is, in the Shvat, there's two main points here. The Torah that the Rebbe said on Yud Shvat has two parts to it. Part number one is the purpose why we created, why Hashem created the world, and part number two, what our avodah is in fulfilling that purpose. So purpose number one, quite simply, nothing fancy. The Eibush, it says the Sava, in the Svarim it brings different reasons why the Eibush created the world. One, the Netzchai brings in that the Eibishter wanted to show his kindness to creation. The Eibishter wanted to show his greatness. These are reasons that there's a question, there's an answer. Then there's an answer which says the Saba Kadosh Baruch Hu the Eibishter had a desire. A desire means it comes from the very essence of Hashem to create a world where He will be there also. He Eibishter wanted to have a physical world where He is seen also in the physical world itself. That's what He wants. So that's the purpose of the world. In here, there's no questions. There's not answering a question. This is because there's no explanation for the essence of Hashem. Hashem is a lot higher than explanation. We're saying that the purpose of the world is so deep and so connected with Hashem that it goes all the way up to the desire, which is the essence of our language that we use. Now, what's our Aveda? What are we expected to do? We have a big part in the whole thing, because how do we bring that the world should see the Eibishter is here? How do you do that? Through learning to doing mitzvahs and being kaif for the Yetzer Hara. When the Yetzer Hara, when the world screams to us and says, "Hey, there's a world there," and we say, "No, there's no world. There's only Eibishter." When we see a challenge, this mamish helps you weiter. Once you understand, you have a Yetzer Hara. So when you have suddenly a challenge, you're challenged with you're davening. Yeah, and you have machshavas zoros. I mean, I don't know. I would venture to say that. When we're davening, go up in the city, suddenly we get all. Instead by Shemad Esrei, it's punkt done. We get all these machshavas that nobody thought about, right? So sometimes a person will think, right? They'll say, "Oh, if I'm davening and my davening is filled with machshavas zoros for the different things, yeah." So obviously I'm not davening good. No, davening doesn't mean anything. It's not worth anything. What am I davening for? And then you zip through it. The answer is fakert. Once you understand, you have a Yetzer Hara. That's not like you're davening. If you only thought you had one nefesh, and you're davening, and you're trying to connect the Eibishter, and that davening is filled with machshavas zoros, then you got a problem because there's something wrong happening here. But if you realize there's a fight going on here, there has been the statement from the Yetzer tape. You have the Yetzer Hara trying to fadei your cup. The Yetzer Hara sees you're trying to connect with Hashem, but through davening, you do punkt down. That's why you can punkt down all the machshavas zoros. It's not by accident. Because when you realize the struggle, what's going on, there's a struggle here. They just created a world, and the world tries to fool us into thinking that the world has to be done a certain way. When you get thrown into prison, and the judge says 27 years, it's 27 years. Doesn't have to be that way. Because Hashem says that when you're in the tzara, you can have a munah b'tachon the Eibishter, get out of the tzara, get closer to Him, do Torah mitzvah stronger, with the munah b'tachon the Eibishter help you out. When a person goes through a sickness, Chachman al-Islam, and this is straight Hashem b'tachon. He says if you eat healthy foods, you go to a doctor with the understanding that the only doing what Eibishter wants you to do it, you strengthen your b'tachon to the Eibishter, which is expressed through Torah mitzvahs, a greater, stronger bond to Torah mitzvahs. They says that you'll have to the full b'siba b'siba. With this way, that way, you're not constrained to the limitation. Either not constrained to the limitations of Ilam Hazeh. That's a fact. So what do we have to do? That's what we created for. The Eibishter wants a world where it's hell and it's dark. Tachtenim, he wants a world which is not a world with malachim, where the Eibishter's presence is seen, and there we can do. No, he wants a world where the Eibishter's presence is not seen, and there is what's called the klipa that the Yetzer Hara tries to fanar and tries to fool a person to get off the right way. And sometimes it succeeds. So what do you got to do? You have to work the same way you got into the trouble, you get out of the trouble. You got into the trouble by doing something which is l'mata min haseichel. You got into the trouble by doing something which is beyond reason. It doesn't make any sense for a person to do an aveda. You got into the trouble. How do you get out of the trouble? Also, do a mitzvah that's l'mayla min haseichel. Do a mitzvah even that's not rationally understood. Do a mitzvah with mesiras nefesh. Do a mitzvah with l'mayla min haseichel. And then and then when you understand that this Aveda you're doing is something that's for real, it's not just something which you actually, this is the purpose, and then through this you're actually bringing Vasul Mikdash, by this you bring the Shekhinah into the world, you'll do b'simcha, you'll be b'simcha, even if you're in a very, very bad spot, and you're in a place called prison, or a place called hospital, wherever you are, confined, suddenly you find simcha. What's a simcha? Because you're showing the Eibishter that even in the darkness where you exist, you're going through, you always see the Eibishter in every part. And how do you prove it? Because I'm doing 10 mitzvahs. I'm getting up in the morning, I'm davening, I'm done with a minion. I'm learning as much as I can. I mean, everybody has their own share. A little bit in the morning, a little bit at night, a lot in the morning, a lot at night, whatever you have. So the showing David that even the darkness that is being thrown at you, even the darkness that seems that would otherwise overcome the neshama, you're showing the neshama is strong enough, and even if the darkness is going to be illuminated, and then the darkness melts away. And so to finish up, this is the Maisa. When you tell a Jewish kid, and you tell him, think about yourself as a Yid. And what you can do something for yourself, and you'll be happy, but others won't be happy. Or you can do something, but you'll be happy, and others will be happy. You talk like that, then suddenly it's different. But you think your whole discussion with the Jewish child is only based on the reason. I have to explain it to him. It has to only be with the present. It has to be with otherwise. So sometimes it works, and sometimes you get lost. And if the reasoning you're giving the child is based in the world of Klipa, in the world of philosophy, in the world of that comes from not Jewish thoughts, that doesn't punctuate the idea of Bittul to Hashem, doesn't punctuate that Hashem creates us for a purpose. When thoughts of I am the most important thing in my life, and my happiness is what's most important. So next time you're challenged with doing a mitzvah, that interferes, because doing mitzvahs sometimes takes a difficulty. And if you were told that the most important thing is for me, for my happiness, then that will interfere. But if you're told your happiness is actually Hashem's happiness, of course you want to be happy. Not like if you be, you don't have to be happy. Of course you have to be happy. But understand that your happiness is not the way you're going to do the mitzvah. Then you're going to be happy. Why? Because if you do the mitzvah, what you do makes a difference. It's mamshich all the world. You're fulfilling the purpose of the world. The Eibush is happy with you. And suddenly, you'll find simcha in doing the mitzvah. It's not a contest with to be happy, not be happy. There's no happier person than a person that does take the mitzvahs. I was probably the happiest guy over there. I wasn't happy to be there. Believe me, I wasn't happy to be there. No, the simcha was that the day that Hashem wanted me to be there, and I was able to do what the Eibush wants, even in such a cheshach, and I knew by doing this, the Eibush is happy. That was my simcha. That's a simcha. It's not that you have a simcha. You have to, but if, let's say you're going to say, I have to be b'simcha, and all I have to be b'simcha is I do what I want. Again, so that's why you were created. It's mamish going against the whole purpose of creation. The whole purpose of creation was to live in the Shvat v'seicham. The whole purpose of creation was to bring to make out of ourselves a mishkan lo yisbarach, to learn to do mitzvahs, and with them all, it's all about me, not about the Eibush. So we talk to ourselves, we talk to children in that type of conversation. You take away the din of Kabbalas Oil. You get up in the morning, you say, how can you live without Kabbalas Oil? Eid. The Rebbe asked Yosef today. He had one of the statements he said was, the Eid is a Kabbalas Oilnik. Eid beteva is a Kabbalas Oilnik. You become Kabbalas Shmach. So you start knocking kids and telling them, you're important. How does that work with Kabbalas Oil? And it's not about, tell them you're important. You know why you're important? Hashem created you, and in you depends the whole purpose of creation. And when you do a mitzvah, you have the creation b'shvin v'elam. And if you do Hashem Naveri, you create a lot of damage. Of course you're important, but connected with truth. The importance comes with art, connection with Eibush. That's where importance comes from. Now, the importance doesn't come because I have feelings. And another thing, you have a Yitzhak. How do you get to a conversation with a child without explaining them? Maybe you have a midah, maybe you get angry, but the anger can become from Yitzhak Hara. The Yitzhak is not angry. And Chas v'Sholom talking a bit about your parents is against the mitzvah kibbutz avayim. The biggest punching ball is the parents, right? The parents are in trouble, the parents did, the parents that. And the most important mitzvah, kibbutz avayim, which part says hadibris, the ma'yirich yemecha, that's the mitzvah that they always check with. The parents are somehow at fault for all children's problems. I never saw this in my life. I mean, what's the point? Maybe in their world, maybe it works. I'm not getting into it. They're smarter than me. But in our world, in the world of Torah, the Eibush says to it's a mitzvah. And the Gemara brings stories about kibbutz avayim, and the reward and the chashon will forget from it. You can't stop messing with that. So forget if you have a parent that's in need. The parent, forget you have to be The story of the Gemara, the mother came in and spit him in the face in front of the Senate. And what the reaction is supposed to be in such a situation. But the point is, when we are Yidden, and we are living a life in the world, which is a guy from the world, we have to go to the world like a Yid. Wherever we are, whatever situation we're in, not to say, my situation is different. It is different, because every person has their own understanding. But it's not to say that because the situation is different, the Torah changes Chasham. The Torah is the same. You have to just realize how do you use. If you remember that I am a Yid, I have a neshama. I have the biggest kayach that I can bring down brachas from the Eibishter at the day. If I can use that kayach to make me happy and to give me all the brachas I need, that's what I have to do. L'chaim, everybody. L'chaim.
How
can he not stay for the koil? You
want to stay overnight?
It's a koil $250. Right here. Every morning.
Very nice to meet you. What? No,
I thought it's a big no-no. Military. Thank you for your teachings. Yeah, 8 o'clock minute. So it's good to say. Fibers will get the speakers all the time. He only needs help. Yeah?
Glory Lord, Michael, glory Lord. I always told my kids, every young kid, I told them. It's
wonderful.
Okay, bye.
What's your name?
Yitzchak Hertz.
I was speaking on Sholom Burr. I got it. Just recently. January. I think I have to watch. Guys supposed to learn and have to look like I got to give you a shot first. So one of the guys
Too cold because it's too cold outside the main cold.
One cold? No. The window here is open.
Oh, that's the one. Sorry, 10 o'clock at night.
Very nice.
I want to wrap it up. So I said, one of the hands, you have to say it all the way. But it was pressing. And then I told him that.
Beautiful.
The stitches like that.
Finally. How you doing? Pleasure. See you more than once. Go out down. Accident is big. Unfortunately.
They don't have in yeshiva, but they say the chamer and it's unregulated. They're all coming from.
Chaim Yasser.
You're into it. I'm telling you, I'm not here to criticize anybody, but I'm aware. You really you took a minute. You thought what they're telling your kids, and you try to go on it, but realize that the mind of you trying to.
Okay.
What's happened to them? Yeah,
Right.
Because what they're doing is that the whole yesod we have is a moment. With us and etc. They go other they as a professional. Even as Elachiyid, they come and
Right, it's all coming from.
they're coming from the they don't talk about purpose in life. Everything you talk about little, you're talking about they forget it. It's all about you, it makes you happy. So like I said, the real
But
thing.
where do you have this chiluk between you and the Rosh? If the nice it's my love, because the tachlis of the prayer is it's not the tachlis as you, but it's this kind of a person is dedicated to serving the Rosh. So then it's not there's no difference.
No, but it has to be better than I wish to. Right? Gaiva is in the middle of the Yasham. When a person has learned a bit, he realizes that's not essential. Yes, they just he's trying to get a system. He's trying to get he realizes the limitations. He realizes that's not techniques of yogi. But that's not only in the Panosa, that's not even learning. Hashem, you can't fight yourself. Nothing. So our job is to realize we're praying for a purpose of the mitzvahs. And our simchas achayim comes from there.
But you must have a mahalach in simchas achayim. It's just left the situation. You had the tools.
I know where I got it from. The Tanya said it's not from books. I didn't make it up. I didn't make it up. I'm looking for what I looked at. I need that question. I'm not criticizing. Why they should make it part of it? You
learn about it.
learn about the genre.
Now is a little bit more. The Miller stuff is very, very bad.
This is okay, but when you bring in this they're feeding a different line. Listen to what they're feeding. You have to be right. They're feeding them a different line. The line is ego, self, gashmius. The idea of it's harder than talk about. In other words, if I have a machshav zone, I realize Chabad Neshama and Chabad is right, and it's come from there. It doesn't mean that I'm inherently bad. Right.
We done it before. We started.
They don't talk like that.
Before we started, we done it.
Went to one.
What time?
I never went to one.
I heard biceps. Biceps, but they feed them. Then the first cut was a parent.
11. You go to Westgate every 20 minutes.
Everything depends full.
The first cut is the parents, which before the parents can talk to the kid.
What do you guys do?
Why could they want to control? They talk about they want to have a repeat customer. They want a child.
You cut them off from the parents.
So you're bringing in something to help the child. The rabbi.
Oh, hey.
Suddenly the child looks for his answers for Chaim from these people. I'm talking about the hearts. I'm trying to make them weird. This is a real.
Which Rebbe has the time and the cheder to really at least have 25 days. That's why it's happening. So that's why it's happening.
I understand. So maybe bring in every
Rebbe,
bring somebody who is
Termisar wants to do that. They have a whole thing from Mashgiach.
But what are you bringing in people that went to college and study about that, and they're bringing him in as if it's part of it? It's not part of it. It's not part of it. In life, okay, in life you have Kedusha, you have Tumah, and then you have Rishus. But when a person touches it, it's either Tumah or Kedusha. It's not a part of it. There's no part of it. So if you become a Mashgiach, every chuk, whatever they have.
Right. However, the thing, the tax was straight on. Not outsourced. Is it web-based?
I said this as you're a chinuch, so I wanted to put him on.
Shkoyach. Appreciate it.
That's why I got quiet from you.
Rubashkin, we have some money. No?
With someone. I thought we with someone else.
Oh, someone else.
I tell my wife, I was about
Let me sit down.
Right. What's the
I'm glad they're there 2 weeks ago.
very minimal. They get more than that.
What is it? You're running here?
Some places I'm running to fight for it. I
What's your name? Trista. Very nice. What brings you to town? What brings you to town? Which one? Very nice.
I heard about it. I guess I missed the speech.
Are you from now?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not finished. Shabbos. Father's cousin.
Don't worry so much about it. So many of us.
You're in the Parsha? How do you relate to Rubashkin?
I realized that for me to be happy, I have to be part of.
Chaim. You went in
What? Some of that side is still in his full radiance.
Some people it's
Huh? When did he get sick?
right up
She's not well. Has?
I got a child. I got a child for a lifetime.
Ja, in sein.
And it took a while, and I had to constantly figure out
That's what
teaches them.
You're not.
The challenge is I have the harder job. My job.
He was already
20 years to be a business.
just a bucket.
Why? It was in
The bucket did not a lot of bucket connected to him. Very good conversations with him. Yeah, amazing.
Oh yeah, no, she's a very exciting lady. She don't know how old
We're talking about here about person. One of the Fabring, everybody said. Fabring, yeah. So I want to
come closer.
sometime I said I learned tiny Shem I'll share with you first. It says like this. We learn this is within it. You know, you find the kernels of real stuff. You can. We learn Torah. Why have to learn Torah every single day? A lot of reasons, obviously, but that's one of them. We learn. Let's say now Chumash. Yeah? Remember we learned Chumash when we were 5 years old in class about Tis Mitzrayim, about Pis Yamsuf. What was our perception then? Whatever it was. Then we learned when we were 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, right? And somehow, if you don't keep on learning that Inyan as an adult, and you stay stuck, right? So you could be 25, 30 years old, but your idea of Tis Mitzrayim is the way you understood it when you're 12 years old. Understanding that our ability to grasp ideas grows. Our ability to remove ourselves from very, very basic Gashmi to get a little bit more spiritual grows, it changes. So that's why he says you have to learn it again and understand it from the perspective that you exist right now. With all your experience that you experience right now, go back, learn the same Parsha and Torah, understand it from there. Now you got it? And that's why I have to keep on learning Torah over and over, because we are growing, hopefully. but it's true, definitely, in the world of not delicious things that we're growing. And ideas and questions come up along the way. So the question could be, if you're understanding of a concept of Yiddishkeit as you understood it when you were 19 years old, then you have valid reason why you have a problem with it right now. Because what you're really doing, you're using your 20-year-old mind, to fight a 9-year-old mind. Who do you think is going to win? That's not fair. What you have to do is relearn it, and that it doesn't mean necessarily you were taught wrong. You know, the Rambam talks about how we're supposed to educate a child. The real learning of Torah is Lishmo, right? But you can't go to a child, and this the Eibishter instituted the system, the Eibishter made this world this way, and there's a whole question why it's like that, but it's a fact, right? She says the Eibishter made that to motivate a child to learn Torah, you have to motivate him with candies, with cookies, with nuts. In those days, nuts. Well, so much candies those days, sugar. That nuts and sweet things. And you tell him, learn, I'll give you something sweet. So he really wants a sweet thing, he learns, right? Then he gets older, and then he says, hey, I don't know, I'm not going to put out myself for that. I just have to get money. And then you get older, you offer him covered. And then he realizes I'm an idiot. None of that above. I want to learn Chachma for the Chachma itself. But the way he got there was talking through. So if he never got to the point, and he's still in Candyland, in trying to get candies, and he has a mind of a guy who was trying to. There's a collision there, right? So that's why it's important to revisit. When I say revisit, relearn the things we learned in yeshiva. I'm trying to defend what we learned in yeshiva. Maybe it's indefensible either. I'm not saying I went to yeshiva. I had my problems with my rebbeinu too. It's not as if. I remember my good rabbis, I remember my bad rabbis. I remember, right? But whether they're at fault or I'm at fault, what difference does it make? I'm living my life. To sit and say, okay, you told me wrong and that's why I have to suffer. No, I have to take a step back. I have now a brain, and I can learn. I can say, okay, explain me this. Okay, and now I was put in a very black and white position. So what I did was, I took what I learned in yeshiva and I tried to apply it to where I was there, and where maybe in the world of business and that I was able to slide by without facing it. I suddenly faced it, and I had to say, is this true or not true? In other words, this end of the story is a good story, right? I mean, you heard the story? No. We said before that this is for real, right? It's not really. Say the story over again. Okay.
We grew older since you told it last.
There was a Fabrengen, and somebody asked a question like this: Why? When we say Shema Yisrael, we're saying Hashem Echad, Hashem Emin Mavade, Avos Hashem, Yiras Hashem, Mitzvahs, Hashem Shat Mordechai. We get on a very high plane, and then we say Emes, V'yatzev, V'noche, V'kayim, V'yoshem, V'neman, V'chav, V'nachah, 15 expressions of true and beloved. What's this thing? Why so needed? So I heard this just a long time ago, but I got like it for the story, in that, why is it, say Emes V'yatzev, Emes V'noche. What's this, what's over and over and over again? It's for real, it's for real. See, this like you saw, there was a rich guy. And this rich guy was as some rich people are, not all, was a very, very big miser, stingy. He couldn't fathom. I met people like that. He can't, to give away $1 is like from. I mean, you have more money you ever spend in your life in your bank. You just can't get it. They mine $1 for you. So particularly goyim. So, you can't. They have, yeah. So, by the way, on this note, I have to have something in the story. I always wondered, how come Goyim think Jews are so rich? I lived with the Goyim for 20 years over there, right? And I wonder, Goyim have this notion that all Jews are very wealthy. Right? They're working hard, they're trying to make a living, can't put $2 together. Where they get? The Irish Goyim, they're more rich Goyim than the rich Yidden per capita. I mean, they talk about the billionaires and millionaires. So what's Taich? I'll tell you what it is. They go to a fundraiser, and they see them giving $100, $1,000, $5,000. $5,000 you gave away? You must have $5 billion. In their world, I'm telling you, if they look at the donors, Microsoft, what's the guy's name? Okay, he started giving a lot more, but look at these guys. They give $1 million. They didn't touch a thing, and by them it's just the greatest chesed in the world. You ask a guy that has $1 million for $5, I'll kill you first. I mean, this is not my money. So when they see Yidden giving stuff like that, they're really convinced that the guy's a billionaire. That's what happens. That's what I think about it. That's what it is. Back to the story, huh? No, this is so this is miser. This miser had a daughter, but her husband had of they gab sich am gasten the erste weiter ganze Kiele, and he has to feed andere Menschen. He gave money for his daughter, now he has to give other people also. So he had a plan. What's a plan? He called in the secretary and he said, "This is a plan like this. We're going to order a lot of food, wagons full of food for the whole Chavra. I'm going to park it in the front so everybody can see it. Everybody's going to come the night before from different places. They come to sleep. They'll see, oh, wow, you prepared a big chasana. Yeah? And they'll be very impressed with my generosity. But at night, take all the wagons, get it out of there, return it back, make a return policy, return it back to the vendor, and in the morning come to me and tell me loud in front of the whole minyan that the wagons were stolen. Right? I'm going to make believe, oh, you're very, right? And everybody feel bad for me. And they'll realize I prepared a big chasana, but they can't eat the food because it was stolen. And I'll give them some herring and some kichalach, and that's it. They'll make it and make the chuppah. That was the plan. They should hope that the night went by and the wagons really got stolen. For real. So the guy comes in the morning, goes to his boss and says, loud, he says, you wouldn't believe what happened. The wagon got stolen. He says, I understand. I saw big tzara. So you no, you don't understand. It's for real. They really got stolen. he thinks that his secretary is really, like he's acting a good job. He thinks with his eyes, but he thinks, I understand, oh, he's the terrible, I feel so bad. He says, Mr. Boss, you don't understand. They're really gone. You're not seeing it back. But finally, he chaps it. It's for real, then he starts crying. Sometimes we take ideas, we're told ideas in Torah, and we think it's a speech. It's a nice speech, it's a nice gedank, it's put together, right? And we have to realize this emes, v'yatziv, v'nochin, but it says in the Torah is for real. This is what life is really all about. It's not just a nice thing because the guy has to make a parnasa and he has to teach you something in school. When you get out of there, you'll do what you want. That's what we have to get to. And nobody's forcing it on you because you have the ability to learn and to understand. That's the idea. To learn Torah. There's nothing. And you're able to, Chirus Lavavos is based, he says, I'm going to explain to you in a logical format. Then he says, I'll bring it ice from Torah also. Because logic is you can't work only with logic. You have to have ice from Torah. So he explains it logically, and then he moves into Torah. Yeah. And that's what the Baal Tanya wanted with Chassidus. He wanted to take things that were before above us and bring it down to where we can understand it. Why? Because in order to put that, our foundation is Emunah. It's not logic. We have Emunah, and that Emunah we spoke about tonight. This comes from our Neshama. Yeah, we have to know who you are. When we understand who we are, right? And we understand that our makeup, we have two parts. We have a neshama and a nefesh eliki. We have a godly soul, and that godly soul has to be nourished and fed the same way the body has to be fed. And it's emes v'yatziv. It's not. This nishkan ma'isa. They have to have. It's nishkan shalom the special drasha. And the Eibishter made the 12 Shvatim, and every Shevet has his derech, and his derech is called Torah, and everybody together makes one beautiful army, right? That's how it works. That's like everybody has to be like you were born here, you have to be here. I was born there, you are there. And everybody has the derech. This one with Simcha, this one with Aved, this one with Yira. Everybody that's fakir. That's the tzvokes. That's the Shem tzvokes is beauty. That's what makes us beautiful. This has to be. This has to be. Right? So the Eibush never asks us for more than we can give. So we have to ask, who am I? What talents did Hashem create me with? And that's how it's the Eibush. The Eibush was created with a good brain. I'm going to learn. The Eibush gave me a good heart. I'm going to tzedakah. The Eibush created me with whatever talent the Eibush gave me. I'm going to serve him. That's the whole ma'aseh. When I do that, what's happening? I'm making myself happy. It's not making only Hashem. I'm not doing this for Hashem as if. Now, yeah, I'm sacrificing my animal soul. So that's the word. In the Mishkan, what was the Avodah in the Mishkan? The Avodah in the Mishkan was to bring a behemoth, make a korban out of it. Now, this wasn't just a physical thing, thinking of behemoth. The whole Avodah in the Mishkan was really a arithmetic Avodah. It really mirrored what was happening in ourselves. We have our behemoth. The behemoth is a part of us that looks after eating good foods and enjoying life. Not necessarily bad things. It looks and we make shchita. First thing shchita, you take out the life. Even when we do something, don't be totally involved. I got to tell you a crazy story. Want a crazy story? Yes. Okay. I came back one Sunday. Was visiting room. This is a good. If I say the story, it works out very well. And I'll show you how I learned something. I put it into application. Yeah. So we're in visiting room. I come back. It was at 3:30. So at 3:30 they lock everybody in the back of the cells. They do a count Sunday and every day. They lock everybody in. They count the inventory. Who's in the inventory? They keep inventory every single day. They want to make sure everybody's there. They keep on counting. Yes. Mom shall say. So it's part of the business, and they can't make you the today's electronics. They can't make you put your fingerprint on the counter. They know you're here just this time. Anyways, it's a whole different parsha for itself. But they make the lock you in, and it comes summer. It's really hot. There's a little room for an hour, and if they count right, some of them count wrong. So they go by and look inside and count you. He gets in our ice, I've been locked in for an hour. I had my seder. I sat down. I said, Tillim, I learned something. Anyway, that day I was saying to Tillim, and suddenly I hear yelling going on outside. There's yelling going on outside. So yeah, I hear yelling. There's a football game. There's yelling and shouting and banging on the. I knew Trump won. I never watched TV there. So I had to know Trump won because it was quiet. There's no banging because when Obama won, there was banging on the doors of Chiton. It was definitely quiet. Everybody, all these guys are rooting for the guy, and Trump was winning, obviously. So I woke up in the morning. Anyway, so there's a miskin Schreiter. Anyway, the guy I was with jumps off and he listens to it. It was unusual, really, because one guy is screaming, and he says, "Hey, Rubashkin, listen to this." So I listen. What's going on? This guy is screaming curse words at the guard. What happened? This I don't know exactly who this was either, because there was a prisoner that during the day had words with the guard. They got angry with each other. You can't go and curse at a guard because they'll take you throw into the Celtic environment, to the shul. So what do you do? I mean, Lakewood, if you can visualize like a center room in the middle with 5 levels of doors. You have an embassy suites? No? Anyways, minus everything there, just doors. So, there's a center room with a bunch of, I was laughing about the Gashimis, it's the same thing. So, steel, cement, cold, a bunch of doors. Behind each door is 2 people. One person that's 2 people sharply, and a little tiny cell. So, and because everything is made from cement, there's a big echo. It's a big echo. So, he'll get behind the door, and each door has slats for air. He got behind the door, and he started screaming insults at the guard. Hey, he was a Mexican guy. He was shorts, fat, slob, he's a Mexican, but there's some curse words along the way, and so the guard is quiet until he platzes, and he screams back. He tells him, "You're disrespecting, be disrespectful, and if you don't stop, I'm going to punish you." It's like a kindergarten there. So he sees that the guard is getting...
Rates them on.
He's rates them on, so he does more. Now he doubles down, and he's really shouting. That's it. This was going on. And the guy got angry. He went and he shut down all the TVs. There was like 8 or 10 TVs on all 4 sides of the... So everybody most people can see through the window, watch TV as they, even when they're locked in. You have to have
Keeps them quiet.
Keep it quiet, whatever. Anyways, these guys marched constantly. It was like these things were almost 24 hours a day. So the kids had a mice, and the guard shut it off, and they got quiet. I don't know why suddenly he felt intimidated, they got quiet. So now, the guy tells me he just shut off the TVs. It's a chiddush. The first time I saw this place on TVs. Because it was always on, like 24 hours a day. So I always want to learn. I was like, that one thing that's my strength I had. I always try to learn something, what's going on. And then the Beis Hashem side, I was thinking, what does this place look like without TVs? Fair question. So they open the door. I usually wait a little bit. I just run out. I want to see the guy's face expression, how they walk in there when there's no TVs, right? And you see all these big guys, these tough guys walking out. It's my table. They're walking like Lemalacha. There's no TVs. They're all like you pull the plug on them. Forget about the TVs. They're walking around like zombies. They're finished. I mean, they're walking there, TV pressing the button. I was crying. Was it Zion? They're complaining. One guy's cursing out the guy who did this, and the other guy says maybe you can get on this way, maybe that way. They're trying to get switched. It was dead. Yeah, I think you shot them. These guys are walking around like. They're totally disoriented. They were finished. And these guys, these bulvanas, how do I say it? I never thought you can get into such a position. They're finished. And I was watching this, and I always tried. The Hashem says that for everything you see and hear, you have to take a lesson in the Beis Hashem. I did that. So that kept me also sane, because I always looked to the place. Let me figure out how this looks in the world of yesterday, Yitzhahara, right? And it hit me. I remember in yeshiva, one of my rebbeim, he was teaching us about. Don't get overly involved with Gashmis. What is the Gashmis? Don't. One of the, it says that a kosher behemoth has chooses cod, has split feet. Why is that a simon kashrus? Right? The Rebbe explains like this. He says, when you chew your cod means, when you eat something, you eat something new. A kosher person, a kosher sign is don't swallow it, don't ingest it, don't make it part of you right away. Chew it over. Tachdiber. Maybe there's something about this food that's going to hurt you. Right? And we see this. Now, 10 years ago, this iPhone was said to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? And today, everybody, including Goyim, admit to there's big problems. Everybody jumped in to adopt it. And today, everybody's helping you how to get out of it. They're giving you now apps. One app on top of the other app, how this app to the other app. How many times? Now you need 5 apps to make sure that you're not watching it. You are watching it. You could be watching. You should be watching. You shouldn't be watching. So I took how to control this monster. Who asked you to eat it up right away? Take it easy. First, figure out how this is gonna. So that's one thing. Second thing is, a kosher animal, tippy toes. He's on the world, but he's not totally. His whole lappa. You know what lappa means? His whole foot is not totally on the ground. A kosher animal he's only there as much as he has to. Right? To keep him up. So a kosher animal, don't be totally overimmersed. This is the idea my Rebbe was trying to teach us. And they asked an interesting marshal. This I never forgot. He said, I'll give you an example. He says, if a rich man is going to invite a poor person to his house to eat. So picture the scene. The guy goes to shul, this rich guy who lives in a nice house, a big, he has a good fancy food, and he invites this poor guy that's living on bread and water, and brings him into the house to eat. And he gets served a nice, you see really rich people, how they sit, and they have a special fork for this food, a special knife for that food, and a special spoon for it. They have some nicer. And they give him a plate, and he's piece by piece. The poor guy sees a piece of fish. He's into it, like into it, and he's eating, he's biting on him, and he's slipping and burping. So who's more into the food, the rich guy or the poor guy? That was the question that Rabbi asked us. We knew it's a trick question, right? Because he'd say right away it's the poor guy, but we couldn't figure how is the rich guy more into the food than the poor guy, right? I mean, obviously the rich guy is sitting calm. He's eating it, he's enjoying it, but you don't see any expression of connection there. And yet, the poor guy is so some guy said, poor guy, I kept quiet because I knew it was the rich guy, I couldn't say how. Anyways, it's the rich guy. Okay, that's the right answer. How? Why? He says, you need to prove it. You need to say what you want to say. Prove it. How do you prove it? He says, take away the food from both of them and see who jumps up higher. Who complains louder? Who goes more? Who did it touch more that doesn't have it? And sometimes you have to see when you don't have it, how deep does it touch you, and then you'll see how connected you are to it. Because, and this is an interesting thing, because externally it's the poor guy that's into the food, because the rich guy is eating it, he's used to it, it's a big deal, yeah. But the reason why he's doing it externally, he's not totally involved, because he's so connected to his essence that doesn't even express itself. Him and the food became one. That's what happened there. Him and the food became one. His lapper, his paws, and him and the world became one. That's it. Right? Pick yourself up, tippy toe. You have to eat, you have to enjoy. Yeah? What's that? Okay, yeah. We just started warming up over here. Are you coming over? Yeah, verbrengen over here. Gaaiings. Yeah, yeah.
Cookies.
Why can I cookies? Yeah. Yeah, one of your friends came over here. He said, you're doing the business. Why'd you leave? Okay, come by. Okay, see. My curious, my buddy. So the kid said, what's the point? This is an interesting point we're talking about. So I was watching these guys. You guys are watching TV? He said, yeah, they're watching TV because they want to take their mind off. They're watching TV because of this, that, the other. Not so bad. Then I saw they took it away from them, they fell apart. Here I saw how deep connected they were with this thing, and that further strengthened my resolve to stay away from it. That's because that's one place I didn't want to go. For many reasons, for a different time. I don't want to go there. I'm talking about the idea of we have to, and that's what this Taylor that ever said on Shvat is a tell like this. It's kafir. Be in control of your life. Don't make. I have to have my coffee in the morning. I have to have coffee in the morning. I shouldn't say that. I have to do this. Why? Don't. You have to control. I'm do this. It's got to be sometimes. You tell each other you're in control. If you can, if the world is defining you, you're in big trouble. You're chained down. You have to. Freedom means be who you are. That's what freedom means. Be a yid. That's what freedom really means. Freedom doesn't mean doing what you want, because the Chatchila dates are come says you do what you want, but is that really what you want? Or you're doing something, you'll be convinced that's what you want, but then suddenly it becomes something that controls you. So I got this conversation was like this. He said, yes, we have to live a good life. Yes, the Eibishter wants us to enjoy a good life. Yes, the Eibishter wants us to have a good job and make a lot of money and have a nice house and eat kosher food. That's all tasty and good. Yeah, but let's do all that. Let's do all that in the Yiddish way. What's wrong with that? Who fell off the horse? Why do I have to emulate a goy? Why do I have to look like a goy to be happy? When I know that I can't be happy if I do like a goy. A goy can be happy like a goy. I saw this all the time. They can be happy. I can never be happy being like a goy. Why? Because that's who I am. And this little fine line, because and this is the purpose of why we exist. The Rebbe wants us to be in the world, eat and drink and eat that good food here. The rabbi put all the good food.
I always see a lot of people, they keep every mitzvah, every halacha, and they're walking around like they're
angry
zombies. Like they're not even bringing any tears to them.
Okay.
So what mistake?
Give him a hug. Give him a hug.
No, I'm asking is, I'm trying to disprove you. I'm trying to say, you see, the Torah doesn't.
No, because it could be.
One mistake not to make. One mistake they're making.
Because that would be because over there also they're taking the chitzenius, what they're supposed to do, and without doing the shamash abadavar.
Yeah. So where do
you have to do the shamash. If you what I'm learning Torah, I'm doing because every student wants me to learn Torah. By learning Torah, I'm making the Eibishter happy. That's my happiness. So now, why would I ever be sad? I'll be happy. I want fachmuret. When you walk around fachmuret, first of all, people that are sad are usually okay. But to answer your question, how to answer your question? Fachmuret. You know, you got it.
Multiple translation. You hear it. Yeah.
First of all, we spoke about it by Fabrengen. A lot of times it's a horror. And you're laughing from this. I'm not laughing from this because I spoke to a guy who was never Chvatzovit. He was a Yeshiva Bacher. He knew a few percent of Bahat. And I can't say that. Yeah, but he got into a real level of depression. He was upset. He what did he need? I don't know what chaz, yeah. And as he's talking, he suddenly says, and he can't be a God Lador. So I said, what? So he says, and who else should be God Lador? Better get button. Who said that? No, he looks at me. What do you mean? What I say? Somebody along the line told him that he has to be a good Lador to be happy, and he was obviously a smart boy, and he was doing good. And then he realized he can't be. And so I said, actually, what you're doing is your Yetzirah convinced you that you have to go. Why can't you be out of the Chiyad and learn Torah for Laila? Sometimes the anivus, the being sad comes from not believing in what you're doing. It makes a difference. You know what I'm saying to you? You don't have to reach with that what you're not to be happy. Right? You don't have to be those that have to be Rosh Hashiva, and those have to be God Lador, and if not, they're in trouble because they were created for that. And other people don't have to be for that and if somebobody convinces himself, this is Schari, it says in the Gemara, and Schari didn't want to bring the Meister Kamsa, right? You know what I'm talking about? They brought a solicitor of Schari caused the Churban, right? Why? Because he was so. What's something to say if you're going to kill him because he brought a Kamtamum? So all that caused one Churban, Rahman al-San. So sometimes you think you're saying something holy, but really it's a fakert. That means if you're not going to do a false anivus, you're going to be. You never know that I am doing a mitzvah. I do a mitzvah. The Eibishter cares. The Eibishter is for Emes v'Yatzav v'Nachum. It's for real. We don't talk about mitzvah. Mitzvah comes from the Hosea says mitzvah comes from Lashon Tzavsa v'Chiba. You connect with Hashem, and we connect with Hashem. You have all the brachas. So your strength. I never felt strong. Well, I'm one guy over there. They can do anything they want to me. There's some shit in the place. There was a guy there, and I warned him. There was a Shvat guy there that he came and from one of the islands, and he fell into jail somehow. Whatever. I don't know. He didn't fall into jail. Anyway, whatever happened there. And he got into a conversation with me, and people I talked back to them rationally and different things. And then I knew he got into this thing. He was in a cell, and they gave him a cellmate. They show you how dangerous it is. Nobody. They gave him a cellmate, a real retard. He was a half normal person, and this guy was a psycho. I mean, 30% of the people there are Pashut Kukuliku. I mean, on a real level. They don't want to put. It's in other words, it's cheaper for the government to put them into. I heard this from the chaplain. It's cheaper for the government to put them into prison than to put them into. Yeah. All right. So they put him in. This guy's crazy. He couldn't know what to do. So he went to the counselor. He tells the counselor he can't be with him. I'm putting with you. I don't get no about it. So he started fighting the other guy. One thing I told him, don't do it. Because this is my cell. It's your cell. It belongs to them. It belongs to you. What do you have? And that's Heinrich says, my thing. He was there first. He fought, and then before you knew it, they took him out, and I never saw him again. They took him to a different prison. So I'm trying to say this is a place you're nobody. So what empowers you? What gives you keiches? It's not like I can work on my ego, my self-worth. How strong are you really are, right? But that's a chaynet. Your strength comes dafke from being bottled to the Eibishter. Here's how it works. When you're bottled to Hashem, Hashem allows us to connect with Him to Torah mitzvahs. So when I connect with Torah mitzvahs, then when I mevatel my own mitzvahs, which is not real, I'm a creation, and I allow Hashem to be part of, I allow myself to be part of Hashem, then suddenly the keiches I have are Hashem's keiches. Hashem allows me to use keiches infinite. That's what's really going on. And then when you do that, then suddenly things happen that you never believed could happen because it's not you doing it, David is doing it. And where does that connection come from? Torah mitzvahs. That's the present of Matan Torah. That's where it comes from. It comes from learning Torah. Because the different Torah mitzvahs is Torah we internalize. Right? Torah, unlike mitzvahs, learning Torah is also a mitzvah. But unlike mitzvahs, Torah, when we understand something in Torah, even when we understand just the right? That's really a ratzon of Hashem. They're talking what Hashem is saying and such a how it works. When we internalize that, we're actually internalizing Hashem's chachma. The infinite chachma that Hashem took his chachma and put it into Torah. That's what's really happening. So then, we are mamish internalizing Keiches Eibishter. And then when we live with that, not when we do it and become a bagaiva and do something else, when we live with that, and we devote it, and we do a mitzvah with Mesiras Nefesh, and we feel good about it, and we know by doing that, we're bringing bracha, suddenly the keiches you have are really big. But it's not your keiches. It comes from Leibish, so you're doing a mitzvah. So I felt, when I learning that idea, that concept, that gave me the keich, personally, to be able to be in this mental institution, and be myself. And that's because I was myself. I survived. There was a guy there who's a real a businessman. Who made a big successful business, have money, and he got interested. He worked. He helps. He's involved with Aleph with he supports them a lot. He got involved with my case, and he helped my family personally also. Besides, Aleph is an organization that helps prisoners. So he. Got involved in my case also. He visited me one time. Very shmach idol. So after I got out, Baruch Hashem, there was a big simcha, right? So I got out, there was simcha. So I was dancing. I said, I finally made an appointment. I want to visit him. I got us a tape. Yeah, so I want to see him. So I met him in his office. We had some pizza. And I'm telling him, it's like 2 weeks after I get out. So I'm telling him this. It was really amazing. He didn't dancing in the streets. I mean, what was going on there? It wasn't me. It was the Eibush that. David showed himself that he can help a Jew in any matzah. That's what happened then, right? And everybody related to it. That was David. Yeah, look at this. It's really for real. That's what's going on. They saw David in full. So I'm telling him all that, and then he says to me, "Okay, now I got to tell you something." Half an hour later, Sholom, I got to talk to you. He gets to me. What is he going to say? So he tells me. I work with Aleph, and I work with a lot of people that go out, even not in medium security prisons. The guys that go in camps for a year, 2 years, they come out that they're really a little sushosen, not only fachmuret, sushosen, but the sharp sublunget, yeah, that's the right word. That's the right word, by the way. Sublunget. No, because everything there is done to unscrew you, to really take you apart. Like a school is there to build you. If it doesn't, that's a different discussion. But it's at least the idea behind the school is to build you. There, everything they do is to have you under control, institutionalize you. And in a lot of ways, the world we live in is designed to institutionalize you. You're wholly watching constantly people throwing at you ideas, what they really want is the institution, to think this way, to do this way, you have to do this to be happy. You become institutionalized. That's a separate discussion in itself. That's what actually we're talking about. So anyways, he tells me, listen, I deal with people a year, 2 years, and you've been 8.5 years away, and this. I said, but he tells me, by me, it's no question in my mind that in 2 weeks, he tells me this guy, he gives me another 2 weeks, because he himself sees it happen earlier, so he gives me another 2 weeks. You're going to wake up in the morning, and you're not going to get out of bed. You're going to be depressed, you're going to be fachmurat, and therefore you need a psychiatrist. And he pulls out a business card. It came from a friend. He pulls out a business card, and he tells him when that happens, he called this guy. No. For other people, it's fine. And I'll pay the bill. He wasn't drumming up business. He was actually. He was willing to pay the bill. But for him, there was a question in his mind that if 8.5 years, you're going to see a psychiatrist. I look at him like, I love the guy. He's a real tzaddik. I mean, he went way beyond anybody in a personal level. So I started laughing. I said, let's keep the card. First of all, I saw psychiatrists already. I was a whole mice in there. Anyways, but in the prison, they took me out and had a whole fight. So they sent the psychiatrist to find out if I'm normal or not. I asked them for a certificate that I am normal. But that's a separate story, a different time. But I said, why should I be a psychiatrist? I got out of jail. I don't know. But that's a story. So what am I trying to tell you? In truth, a guy in prison told me, if you go to jail at 10 years, you can collect Social Security if you get out and you're disabled, you're mentally disabled, and they'll pay you. You have to fight for it, they'll pay you, because 10 years in prison will do that to the person. It will disable him because his mind doesn't work anymore. So how does it work that you can go through and the mind doesn't work? It's not your own cases. I'm trying to tell you. You have in the Shama, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I forgot the main story. I prepared a story, I forgot the whole story. Let's tell another story, not about me. There was a big tzaddik called the Meir Mitzvah. And this tzaddik used to go to the mikveh every morning. Right? And he had to go to the mikveh, he had to go down the mountain. It's a famous story, right? You guys know the story? Say the story again. So the story is made to say over. And when it snowed, the path got slippery, and he went with his towel down the path, never fell down. Now there's 2 lakes over there in the city of Yerushalayim, and they were talking about the godliness and holiness of the Seder Meir. They wanted to throw cold water onto the story, and try to add the rationalize everything. So they said they wanted to show they could do it also. So they took a towel, they walked on the path, and they slipped and they fell and they broke hands and feet, and recovering in the hospital like that for a few weeks. They realized there's a kapeda from Rebbe here because they make fun of them. So they decided they're going to go over. After they get healthy, they get healed, they're going to go and ask the Mechila. Wonderful, right? So they go over to the Rebbe and they said, Rebbe, we're going to ask the Mechila. What? He said, well, we're making fun of that, and then we slipped and fell, broke hands and feet, so we want to ask Mechila. So of course, it was Mechil them. And then one of them turns to the Rebbe and says, but how do you do it? How do you do it? We're young, we're agile. We tried to walk down and to hold our balance, and we fell down. And you walked out to the Yid, yeah. So he said this word. He said this: "As miszugebun oibim, fällt man nicht unten. The Meir is zugebun oibim, fällt man nicht unten. When you're tied above, you don't fall below." And he said the Meir, that's a very deep thought. A mitzvah ties you above to the Eibishter. That's the point. When you're tied to the Eibishter, you don't fall. You don't fall. A lot of these anxieties and a lot of the tachmurashaft that we go through in life comes from the very place that we think is verkehrt. If we tied to above, by the Eibishter is simcha, by Eibishter is only simcha, only happiness. You don't have all that garbage. You don't have all that garbage. Verkehrt, right? And we have to finish up. So I'll finish one more story with Simcha.
Who said?
Yeah? No? Who said? Okay. I don't know who said, but... come again. I want to finish one more story. Simcha, then we have to go. How do I say? I'll say more story about Tzafsir Chiva. I got to finish your story with that. I love the story because it's a story about mitzvahs. If I break tonight, there's anything we want to talk about, it's like this. Hashem created the world because He wants a diralei is burden tachtenim. He wants to have asli midrash hanti pesechim. He wants to make this world. We make a bracha on food the chayim. The next time we make a bracha on food, do we eat it? I know this is why we created, to make a bracha. By you making a bracha on food, you bring Shvat tachtenim. Next time you don't give it to Yitzhara and you go and you learn something, that's what it's all about. By doing that, you're bringing godless into the world. And that's the simcha you should have. Tzavse v'chibur. Remember, mitzvah is not just tzivui, a command. A mitzvah means tzavse v'chibur. That's the sense that you connect. It's a tzavse. It's a bond. A knot. Yeah. Now, this is something, as a bocher, I hooked onto this. I like this. You know, so everybody has their things that yeah, like for example, Munna is something that was pretty strong. I'm sure everybody has to get grown what they have, but the Munna, as a sugi I learned in the yeshiva, the Tachon I didn't understand what it was. I mean, if you're in trouble, maybe that means Eibshe wants you there. I learned Shai B'Tachon, so I got it. The Eibshe, with the Munna, what happened, Eibshe wants you now to trust him, will get you out of the tzadi, wants you to get closer, daven, the B'Tachon will help you. Akoponim, so I tried everywhere I can to do a mitzvah properly. I tried not to allow myself to say that most people get a tough spot. They say, okay, I got it easy for myself. I won't go to the meeting. I won't do this. I won't do that. Forget. I got to do every mitzvah I can. Maybe it's to help us 1 year. I think it was either the last year let's say it was the last year. I don't think so. I think maybe it was next to the last year, but I think it was next to the last year. I was like a free by Nes. I opened the what happened was this. They wanted me to be in prison for 27 years. So for the length of time, you get whacked 2 ways. Long time, plus they want you to be in a very, very severe place because they think you're going to run away so many years. If you're under 10 years, they put you in a camp. So I was in this Mishabay who's over there with all these tzchonim. And so Pesach, some years what happened was the campers, they would send over the supplies to us, everything for the Seder plate. So they, like everything, the matzah we got to deliver it, we bought the matzah, but the keirach is there. I said this a few times, I don't finish the story because this brings out the point we're talking about tonight very strong. Simcha is obviously also important, but do mitzvah, you'll see you really simcha also. The kid said 1 year, I opened the box, and I give a look, and I take everything out. So everything is there. The charis is there, the water is there, the chazaris is there, and the salt water is there. One thing I realized missing is the zreya. And the zreya they sent was a chicken neck. Out of different hogim, but what they used to send us was a chicken neck. Baruch Hashem, something. It's came packaged, roasted chicken neck. So I thought maybe the same way the grape juice when it came from them. I said, I went to the guys or the managers over there. I said, guys, you're missing a zreya here. So they went looking in the rabbi's office and stuff. So I realized the pasha forgot. And can't. It's there. It's like the pain is even stronger. Like 100 yards away, behind that fence, it's sitting there. But you can't get it. How are you going to go there? It's like to be on Mars. You're not getting there. And officially, even the guards are not supposed to bring anything back and forth. This is a religious thing, and the religious thing they have to give. I couldn't fathom having a seder without a seder plate. Because, like I said, a mitzvah brings the hamshacha of the bracha of the mitzvah. So every mitzvah has a film. You tie your heart to the head of the Eibishter. Your chakras, your midas become more getlach, more refined to Hashem, and your brains become more close to Hashem. That's our word. That's the school of tefillin. Mezuzah is shmira, right? Chanukah, lichtigkeit, nisim. Pesach is chedus. In order to have a proper Pesach seder, to do this properly, you need to have a seder plate. You don't have a seder plate if you're missing the zleya. You don't have a half. You can't be half pregnant. Either you have it, or you don't have it. So. I go over to one of the guys after I figure out it's not here. I go to one of the guys. I'm not knocking anybody, and everybody. Like I said before, everybody in prison has a license to be crazy. So this is not the derogatory. This has happened. I go to one of the guys that should have. I said, guys, missing this today. I thought what am I going to do? We can go to the chaplain as a group of guys that understand and tell them, listen, it's a religious thing. religion, you have to give it to us. That's the only reason they're letting us sit in the chapel so late at night with all the fancy food because it's a religious thing. This is the day, it's there, bring it to us. If I say it myself, they'll tell me, well, how come everybody's happy? What's your problem, right? So I thought I'd go with other guys, and then we'll tell them as a group. No one wants to go with me. So they don't go with me. I'm going to do it myself. I go to the English. I grab the. I start thinking what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with a African American from Nigeria, I believe, right? And heavy accent, and I'm going to tell him we're missing something that's very important for the religion. So he asked me, what's important? I did a shave at film. I told him a chicken neck. Yeah, talk about dira b'tachteni. Talk about, but really, tonight Pesach a chicken neck is where it's at. It's a zeicha. It's a minhag Yisrael, right? And many Yisrael Terehi. And tonight, in order to have a seder, Papa Seder, you have to have a zreya. And if that is zreya, you don't have Papa Seder. Without Papa Seder, no sasir chiyuv. So I how many explain this to Goy? So I can't bring him a Shulchan Aruch, right? Because he can't read. I figured I'll bring him a picture book, right? Show and tell. Every Agoda has a picture of a Seder plate. Genius, right? So simple. So I bring him Agoda. I find Agoda and I bring us. Pesach, everybody there wants to be Jewish because the food's better. So everybody lines up. They're Jewish. They want to be Jewish. They could be Jewish. They want to switch to be Jewish. Everyone. So he's busy chasing everybody away. And I wait my turn in line, and then he calls me over. I said to him, I said, Chaplain, there's a big problem. What's the problem? So I said, we can't do a religious service. What happened? He said, I forgot to send something. It's in the camp. What are you missing? So I open that Agoda and I show him. I said, chicken neck. I didn't want to say, see that? So he tells me, chicken neck? I said, yeah. And I said, so he didn't pick on. He didn't even chuckle. He says, look, I see he's staring at the plate. So I'm thinking to myself, what do you think? I say you're going to get it and finish. It's a religious thing. So he said, I was like really anxious. I knew I was fighting, so I needed a miracle. Mamash, a miracle we had done. So suddenly he tells me, one second, I got to understand this. I said, I just looked at the plate. I counted. You say, I counted on the plate you're showing me you need 6 things. And you just told me you have 5. Am I missing 1? No, 5 out of 6. He's a baseball. 5 out of 6. RBI. 5 out of 6. Yeah, 5 out of 6. You're in prison. So we fired somebody. You don't have all 6. 5 was toch. There's a lot of ways to explain this. But I was looking at him. First of all, I didn't think of that part he would say. So I was like a little stunned for a second.
Batting 900.
I asked David for help over here, but then I remembered that the mitzvah, since the mitzvah is Ratzon Hashem, the mitzvah is what Hashem wants to do. You can't do it halfway. Either you do what Hashem wants, or not what Hashem wants. Doesn't work halfway. If somebody wants something, if it's a Ratzon that's negate at the very essence, either you're going to do it, not going to do it. You can do it. If it's something you want $100 because $100 is value, you $50 you get half value. If it's a reason, if it's not a reason, if it's a Ratzon, that's what mitzvah called Ratzon. Ratzon, the Eibishter wants it done this way, no other way. So how do I explain this way? I looked at the plate, the chapter, I good much came in my mind, and I figured that he lives in a very rough neighborhood. Or maybe not, but like upon him, I remember I once lived in a pretty, not such an easy neighborhood, so I tell him, chaplain is not so simple. You can't say 5 out of 6, because I'll give you an example. So you have a car, you come to work every single day with a car, right? So let's say you walk out one morning and go to your car. How many wheels do you need to drive your car? 4. And you see overnight somebody liked one of your 4 and took away 1. And you have 3 out of 4 now. You can't drive away, you're stuck, right? So that's the same thing here. It doesn't always work. 3 or 5 out of 6, 3 out of 4. Somebody need all 4 to move. I need all 6 to move. I can't move without it. He started laughing. It hit home. You know, the right example for the right guy. He started laughing. He said, okay, I'll take care of it. He tries to call nobody. He says to go back. I went back over there in the room. It's like everybody now is like wondering, is he for real or is he gonna just drink a cup, you know? He sounds sincere. I'm waiting. I'm not doing a seder, but I wasn't sure if he went for real or just shut me away. But these guys they don't really care about you.
You don't have to.
I sat down, I waited. I think 20 minutes later, a long time later, I waited. Some guy started. I waited, and suddenly he walks in, and he's carrying two Zerayas, like in the bag. He walks in and says, "Hey, I got it for you," He went himself across and got it for me. I was so excited, I jumped up, I started dancing with him. If you touch a guard, you can call right away. I started dancing to the song. He sensed the excitement. Okay, when he walked in, I saw. Anyways, I just want for myself, one for other guys also. You need obviously to know, right? So the point is that I fought for a mitzvah to do it right. And guess what? A short time later, compared to 27 years, Hashem took me out, but they didn't tell you, right? I went out, but they didn't tell you, right? This is the power of a mitzvah. I'm trying to tell you. I didn't do it for any other reason other than I want to be with what Hashem wants me to do. And that's what the simcha that I had there, right? But along with that, when you're connected to Hashem, you're bringing down. That's what you have to remember. You have to remember, when you do a mitzvah, it makes a difference. When you're mitzvah, when you put on tefillin in the morning, it makes a difference. It makes it what you eat. When you keep Shabbos, it makes a difference. It makes a difference if we're in Shabbos or not. This is why we're created. And when we do that, we bring that hashpah into all the world. It says that when we learn Torah down here, the malachim above come to listen. Hashem Baganim. It's chavedim akshiv l'tfilacha. The chavedim we call the malachim, call chavedim. They come to listen to us learning Torah. This is for real. This is something that we're doing. When we look at that differently, then suddenly we want to sit down 15 minutes and learn. If it's sugi is too hard for you, learn something much easier. It doesn't say you have to take the hardest sugi in ksubas and try to figure it out. Some people can do it. I can't do it. So I learned things I couldn't learn. There's a lot of inyanim and Torah in Pshat that I'm just so that you can learn. And learn that and feel that when you're doing this, you collect the Eibush, suddenly you want to learn, you have a tiny good learning, you have an enjoyment learning, and it's for real. L'chaim everybody, l'chaim. L'chaim. Bracha v'atzlacha b'chol ma'aseh deichem. L'chaim. What happens is always tell people to learn Shai B'tochen. Because that strength is a B'tochen. That makes the bracha. Yeah, you can learn it, for real. I got back in the face. I saw you in Muncie, yeah? Where? Oh, yeah, there. Wow. I was there again. You also?
Oh, yeah.
I see familiar faces. So now you're here? Oh, you had to go for bringing there. How are you doing, Baruch Hashem? Take a look at Hashem. And you have all the Baruch Hashem. You'll see. Don't let any other thoughts get in your mind because that's a lie. You're good, Baruch Nisha, I'm good back. So where's the Baruch maybe you sent? Told me you sent this. Nice to see you. Right? And your name?
Shwimmer, you're the swimmer.
See you again. Thank you for coming.
Oh, one person.
I'm also.
Oh, yeah? I'm like, quite a lot of people.
When's the next time?
I'm in the middle.
He has my number. Come again. What's the difference?
I'm brilliant.
I'm in Brooklyn all day. So I say, I don't know what time it should be, like I came 11, but I told people to come, it's good. Sunday also, my party.
I know here, I'll give you another
guy for me that, you know this?
7:05.
Yeah, but I'm not be there, I'm busy.
Okay, keep it for yourself.
Your wife came last night.
With the kid, yeah.
I still have physics from when we learned last time.
Okay, good. Okay. That's good. Okay, I get my number for that reason.
I'll get it.
I came with all the CDs.
Why is that coming good?
I don't know. Walking was not there.
Nothing, only one.
Oh, no, service. Okay, it's 845. Write it down.
Yeah?
845. 826.
I'm looking all the time, it's like 2 weeks ago.
Look at the cameras.
You got it?
No camera. No, but people know still the Tanya. You know the Tanya on the side.
To come if you're around Thursday. To come again.
Thursday?
You got my number
Thursday
there.
now? No, I'm by 11 with you. Yeah, much better. You know, he's already prepared. That's it.
Assalamu alaikum. What's your name?
Moshe Levy.
Shmuel Naparstik.
Well,
Naparstik. Where do you live?
live in Lakewood.
Okay, based on Weinstein.
You live in Lakewood?
I'm trying again.
La 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 la.
No service. The first night, no service.
So you were son the whole time.
Isaac's son. You come to Robert's
Well,
son.
No service.
We're going.
Okay, dat game.
Just do it. Stop there.
Sholom.
You got it again. Baruch Hashem, alle brachas.
Yankee Ranas.
Okay.
You know my uncle. Sholom Ranas. What?
You live now in here?
Brother, that's right.
No, no service.
I was able to do some Maisha in camp.
Oh, you're thanking for that reason. Is het graag? What's your name?
Isaacson.
What's your name? Amaral. Oh.
No, my Bishma.
My nice. I was see the Neuven. It's out of weit weg. I'm seeing the in get me very murdered.
First, they didn't want a bracha.
The bracha about tzlach and everything you do. You want to be happy and stay close to Hashem.
Second, my gosh, was I wanted to make a seder Shabbat, and then he tells me that he had some type of.
We have a seder Shabbat.
Let's start it again.
Which day? When's the best day of the week?
Any day. So Tuesday. On the phone, it can be any day.
Motzei Shabbos? I feel like Motzei Shabbos. Like right after Shabbos.
You want to do Mashak? Actually, that's not a big problem. Not a big problem. I can by phone. I can wherever I am. I can do it. No problem.
Then we had a system that
We should do it. Yeah. Or maybe that system is better than we call a person calling in.
Yeah.
We had it for a while. Yeah. It's going good for a while.
We looked an hour.
Yeah, it's good.
An hour?
Yeah. So when should we do it?
But maybe it has to be shorter, Doctor. If you do Motzei Shabbos, you do a
First
you do a little and do a Meiser. The Meiser with the Fed. I just said it over. Remember the Meiser with the Fed? Remember? Yeah. It was a Belzer, no? A Belzer?
No, yeah, Belzer.
Belzer.
Okay, I think it's better.
Who's working?
Square. No, a little bit. Yeah. It's an avoider. That's happening.
You're taking care of it? Give me your number.
Take my number.
Yeah.
Motzei Shabbos all the time.
No. Do it
You get there. Yeah. What are we going to do? We're going to go to the Chasna, you think? We have to go this?
I'll find out. I know someone about
Okay.
I think he wrote Spanish. Who wants to learn Shvat? Yeah? Huh? Right? Yeah. So,
we'll do half hour for time.